760, John Schaefer and Sammy Long. Sammy's going to hang out for the next hour. There's a lot to get into over the next 4 hours. I'll be with you here until 6 p.m. today. John Canzano, he's got his own website, covers college athletics in the Pacific Northwest, has reported on the Pac-12, which is about to announce its football schedule for 2026. That includes San Diego State. So John Canzano will join us coming up at 2:30. I know you spoke with Kevin Acee earlier today. We might be able to play a portion of that back later in the show here today as well. You saw, obviously, the reporting I've been running around. I'm sure Kevin spoke about the reporting that the Padres are likely to add a starting pitcher, but it's unlikely to be Zac Gallen. That was the latest reporting today from Kevin Acee. We'll hear from Craig Stammen. Spring training kind of now officially, Sammy, underway. But, I mean, this goes back to what we've talked about. It's like, maybe they got some money and they're still waiting on how they're going to use it. But when you talk about a player like Zac Gallen, represented by Scott Boras, probably going to get a high AAV, there was all this speculation on social media over the last 24, 48 hours, but it's probably not realistic.
It felt like the time, I don't know how you feel, but it felt like the time to snag Zac Gallen was when Framber Valdez was still a free agent. Because people looked at, I believe, what Gallen had a 4.83 ERA, something like that last year. So you're kind of paying Zac Gallen on name alone. This was a guy who a couple years ago took the Diamondbacks to the World Series. I know they got smoked in that, but they really had no business beating the Dodgers or the Phillies and got to the World Series. It would be a massive addition for the Padres because we've talked about a lot the last couple of weeks. You got to do something with this because Pivetta, best case scenario is Pivetta has the exact same year he had last year. Michael King stays healthy and is great. Joe Musgrove is being allowed to be brought along slowly and is ready for the postseason. But as we know, the Padres had a, quote, great starting rotation going into last season, and then Darvish had problems coming out of the gates, not being able to play for a couple months. Dylan Cease was kind of a disaster. So players are going to get hurt. So a guy like Zac Gallen needs to be on the radar because Randy Vasquez is fine for June. I'm not trying to take shots at Randy Vasquez. Right. He's not a bad player, but that's not a guy that you're throwing in game 5 in the playoffs and having a ton of confidence in. Zac Gallen would be a massive signing. I know Verlander was off the board today. Yep. I didn't think that was too much of an option, but yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer to hear the Padres probably aren't going down that road, but it's kind of the same old story. It feels like the Padres get outbid by a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about this yesterday. It was after you were gone. I spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes on it because people kept saying, "Oh, do you see the reporting online?" I'm like, this isn't reporting. When it's like some fake MLB account with 89 followers with like a ridiculous name saying that the Padres are going to sign Zac Gallen to a 3-year deal, and then you're like, well, hold on, Scott Boras, this is his MO. It's either a 1-year deal with a through-the-roof price or a really long deal. And neither of those make any sense for the Padres. They never sign pictures, or you can get burned on the really long deal. It costs a lot of money, and the deal's really long. What if there's an injury? And then secondly, the 1-year high AAV doesn't work for them either because they have no money to really work with. I mean, maybe the Darvish money we keep tossing around, but Zac Gallen's going to make more than in 1 year, 10 or 12 or $14 million. So listen, there's other pitchers that will present themselves in the days and weeks ahead that probably becomes more realistic. It's like when you go to, you go to Target, you're like, I want that TV. Like, oh, that's $1,000. Like I was trying to spend $500, right? And even 500. Oh, I can get this for $350. It's like, I think it's probably outside of their budget right now. It is encouraging what he reported today, which is they are likely to add veteran pitching. And Craig Stammen, we were playing some sound earlier on with Flesh and I. He basically kind of hinted, because that was the question people were asking, is what's the deal with this 5th starter? It's getting a little bit late now, and he kind of assured everybody that AJ Preller has worked late. He's had a lot of big deals in February, mainly the Nick Pivetta, Michael Wacha. There's been some big signings for the Padres, big trades that have occurred in February. But in the last couple of weeks, some of these the starting pitching list that was really wide 2 weeks ago has dwindled down a little bit with Verlander and Valdez and some of these guys coming off the board, especially if Gallen's not going to be there. So it's great that they're kind of reassuring us that something's going to happen, but when is it too little too late where you're kind of left with the scrap heap and not exactly who you were targeting to get in the offseason? It's definitely going to be one of those where you're going to sign this player and you're going to be like, well, hopefully Ruben Niebla can figure it out. right. Whenever that happens, you're always like, well, if you're just going to put it in the hands of Ruben Niebla, then why not, find all diamonds in the rough? Because it doesn't work that way. You can't ask every pitcher that had a 5.9 ERA last year to all of a sudden have a 3.5 ERA the next year,
because of Ruben Niebla. And like to your point, like on its face, Pivetta, King, Musgrove, even Vasquez. I think Vasquez is the type of guy that, to your point, it's like he's a means to an end, but once you get to the end, you're not using him. Like I'm not counting on him in October, but maybe his June and July help you get to October. I think that's reasonable. So like on a piece of paper, I hear Nick Pivetta, Michael King, Joe Musgrove. I'm like, great. You know, you're in a position where you can be successful. But then I think about what Dan Zimborski from Fangraphs told us recently, which is like the Padres' issue is they lack depth with their pitching. So like if there's any issue here, like Musgrove isn't fully effective or King, once again, isn't fully healthy, it's like, where are you turning? You get thin really quick.
And to your point about the diamonds in the rough, it's a testament to AJ Preller that your Gavin Sheets and Nick Pivetta was a name, but not certainly at the rate that he performed to last year. The Padres have done a really good job of finding diamonds in the rough, but equating it to the NFL, it's the winning teams in Super Bowl hit on late round draft picks, and that's the consistency. But at the same time, you also have your pillar first and second round picks that you know are going to be bona fide stars. Everything can't be a 6th round pick flyer that could pop a year or two down the road. It feels like the Padres rely on that so much because of the money situation. And it's a testament to AJ Preller that he's usually able to kind of come out on top in some of these deals. We'll see if the same thing happens with Andujar. I know there's some excitement. Yeah. Feels like some untapped potential there considering his great rookie year and then stumbled a little bit. But it does feel like if you gave AJ Preller a little something to work with and he wasn't always have to find a diamond in the rough, it would be nice to just go sign a frontline starter that you can kind of cross that off your checklist and not worry about.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. It's like, do you need your 25th and 26th players on your roster to win a World Series? The answer is yes. Look no further than last year's Dodgers team. But guess what they really needed? They needed Blake Snell, and they needed Shohei Ohtani, and they needed Freddie Freeman. I mean, it starts with the stars. Like, right. And again, that's easier said than done. But the thing is, the Padres do have some stars. They do. They don't have Shohei Ohtani on their roster, but they do have Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, and so on and so forth. Let's listen to this from Craig Stammen. I know you played some of this earlier today. This is Craig Stammen on the current roster and what still could be potentially playing out behind the scenes.
The roster that you have, there were some moves during the offseason. There could still be some. What do you make of this group of players and whether you expect moves coming in the next month or so?
Yeah, we got a great group of players. Some, top to bottom, we've got a pretty good roster that we feel like can compete for, any number of goals throughout the season. Is it the final roster? We know AJ. AJ has always got something up his sleeve. We've seen in the years past. We signed Dylan Cease the day before we left for Korea. We signed Nick Pivetta last year, middle of February. So don't put anything past him. And I know he's continually working and trying to fill out our roster and make it as best we can at the start of opening day.
Yeah, there's no chance, obviously. No roster's complete in baseball. Every team will make tweaks and changes, and of course, there's injuries and everything. The Padres are not a completed roster. That's obvious. But if you're waiting for the knight in shining armor to go, well, now they're going to go from 80 wins to 90. Like there's no one out there that's you're not going to find Framber Valdez. You're not going to find, who is the best free agent available hitter this offseason at the start of the offseason.
Was it Schwarber? I mean, I know he got
like a guy that's going to hit 50 home runs. Exactly. That's not what you're adding. You're much more likely to add Miguel Andujar than you are to add Kyle Schwarber. You're much more likely to add Aaron Savali, who signed earlier today with the A's, than you are to add Zac Gallen.
Ozuna yesterday, kind of want to pass it a little bit.
So you got to be reasonable with it. Like you got to, AJ Preller has done the work. The $200 million has been spent. The Machados and the Tatises and the Musgroves, that's all been spent. Now, around the edges matters. We've talked about that a ton over the years. You want to have a complete roster, so they need to complete the roster. But again, by and large, they've done the work. Now it's about finishing the job. But if you're holding out hope, just trust me, the big move is coming. The big move is coming. Maybe, or maybe it's a small move.
And I feel like the Padres in years past have waited, not always, obviously Juan Soto was to start the year, but, or midseason, and the next year was all the buzz. It's fantastic that AJ Preller has historically won the trade deadline. That's great that you were able to get. I mean, I remember the excitement of sitting on the radio here, and the city was on fire talking about all the bullpen pieces and could have seen go win a World Series. But also, I think you saw down the stretch was they were pressing so hard to make sure they were a playoff team. And it looked like they were going to be a playoff team for most of the year, but it was in question. It wasn't like you could just coast and kind of bring these guys along. You were pressing the bullpen, and you kind of felt like that. Adams got hurt down the stretch. Estrada wasn't as good as he was in the first part of the year. So my point is that if you solve some of these issues, the fringe issues you were just talking about now, maybe then you can go add tweaks at the deadline that aren't desperation moves to try to make sure you are a playoff caliber team. If we're able to build up a little leeway earlier on in the year, I hope the Padres aren't just waiting till late in the year to try to make a kind of life-saving move.
Yeah, and how many times can you go back to the well when it comes to the trade deadline? Like, we've already seen them ranked everywhere as the worst system in baseball. We've already seen them with like
everyone else sees that too.
Yeah, it's like everyone sees that. It's like if you have two of the top 200 prospects, you're not all of a sudden adding this piece that's going to impact your roster necessarily. I mean, you could potentially add a piece, but it's not a guarantee. So, all right, Craig Stammen has spoken with the media. Padres pitchers and catchers are reporting this week, and Kevin Acee was on Fletch Zone earlier today with Ben Fletcher and Sammy Long. He'll be on with us this afternoon, or not this afternoon, but this week as well in the afternoon. On the other side, sticking with the Padres reporting to spring training, what's the organizational philosophy when it comes to hitting? All right. What is the organizational philosophy when it comes to hitting? We're going to share that with you on the other side. Plus, we'll switch gears at 2:30. John Canzano, JohnCanzano.com with really good reporting today on the Pac-12, its 2026 schedule, its impact on San Diego State. What about the Pac-12 basketball tournament? Will that be in Las Vegas in 2027? Excellent reporting from John Canzano. He'll join us live coming up at 2:30. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away against Grand Canyon a week from tonight. We have Charlie Puth tickets to give away for a show at Viejas Arena on April 22nd. We're just underway. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Looking forward to connecting with John Canzano coming up in about 10 minutes. Really good reporting today on the Pac-12 schedule, which is apparently going to be released tomorrow with some unique parts of the schedule. They may include flex scheduling. The Pac-12.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw this on air, so I didn't get into the story. What is flex scheduling? So they're going to kind of do like a NFL thing where they're putting the best matchup at night, or what?
All right, John will have the latest on that at 2:30.
Okay.
All right, so John Canzano will join us at 2:30. The latest on what the Pac-12 is thinking with their schedule release, which could be as soon as tomorrow. We also remind you the Brian Dutcher Show is Thursday at 6. I'm going to sit down with the Aztecs head coach. We'll look ahead to Saturday against Nevada. The Brian Dutcher Show Thursdays at 6 on your home for the Aztecs. Right here, San Diego Sports 760. Did you see this tweet today or this quote from Craig Stammen on the Padres hitting philosophy?
Yeah, I think so.
From Marty Caswell. Listen to this, Brent. I already know. First of all, Jim's already texting me about like things that Craig Stammen is saying. He's like, I already can't deal with it. I'm like, dude, it's been like 12 minutes.
Can I just say, when this quote that you're about to read, the first person I thought of was Jim Russell.
Jim, right?
The first
Listen
person.
to this. I saw this quote, Brent, and I immediately sent it to Jim and Darnay, I think. I'm like, oh, this will solve it. So this is from Marty Caswell, who I believe is in Peoria. She sent out a tweet that said, Craig Stammen says the Padres' organizational philosophy is to, quote, score as many runs as possible, unquote. He also used the word whippersnapper when describing the Padres' new hitting coach, Steven Souza Jr. So organizationally, the new philosophy is score as many runs as possible, which is interesting because they didn't use that in 2024 against
Shut
the Dodgers.
The front door.
Yeah, or 2025 against the Cubs. Like, is there any organization in baseball that's objective is to limit the amount of runs that they're scoring? What does that even mean?
Does this mean that we're going to go from nicknames to dad jokes?
Dude,
Maybe,
seriously.
Dude. We may. But so, okay, organizationally, the Padres' new philosophy is to score as many runs as possible, which is interesting because Craig Stammen also today said that, like, in talking about like hitters and getting back to a team that hits for power like they did in 2024. I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically like, listen, in baseball, sometimes you have a good year, sometimes you have a bad year. Sometimes you hit the ball.
Great.
Like, so the whole philosophy about scoring as many runs as possible is also tied to, he even broke out it's baseball. Like,
you got to give it a real
call. Sometimes you don't.
You got to give it a real college try.
Right, exactly. So
our defensive philosophy is we're going to throw strikes and get people out.
Exactly.
It's just like
exactly
the thing with the Padres, or the thing with spring training, is you can say whatever you want. It's the Mike Tyson adage: say whatever you want, and then you get punched, and everything is thrown out. It's like you can have the greatest spring, and everyone can have the best time, and the vibes can be so great, and then all of a sudden it's the second day of the season. You're down 3-0 in the 8th inning. You're like, what are we doing? You know, like, why have we only seen 92 pitches in the first 8 innings of this game? Why can't we get anyone on base? And all of a sudden you're asking the same questions, which is like, why is this a lineup that hasn't reached at least its potential? And I do think that's fair with Merrill, Tatis, Machado, and others. Did the lineup reach its potential last year? No. Was it closer to its potential in 2024? Yeah, absolutely. And now what are we just hoping it returns to that in 2026, or using the new philosophy of we're going to score as many runs as possible as the strategy to win games?
Not a great look day one with that regard. Listen, there's a low bar with Mike Schilt press conferences, avidly defending players left and right. My thing with Craig Stammen is this: as someone who watches every Los Angeles Laker game, it was the same thing when JJ Redick got hired. It was the concern was LeBron got him hired. What is going to happen when you have to have a hard conversation and go to the media and criticize some players for effort and things like that? Say we want about JJ Redick. He actually has done that so far as his tenure with the Lakers. Today, Manny Machado praising Craig Stammen, Fernando Tatis Jr. Everyone's singing Kumbaya right now. Everyone's real happy about their former teammate managing the team, which is great to an extent, because Mike Schilt, I thought his downfall was reporters would ask legitimate questions about guys slumping in the middle of the summer. Do you need to have a lineup change, a defensive shift change? And he was very my way or the highway. I'm sticking with my guys to a fault. I hope that Craig Stammen is able to lay the law down a little bit with some of these guys, because I think it's been needed over the years, and it shouldn't just be the players like Craig Stammen. That's great, but he also needs to be able to not be their former teammate who they walk all over and actually command respect to the team. So when you hear quotes like, we're going to try to hit the ball more than the other team, you're like, not off to the best start, but I guess we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, again, it's day one as a manager. There's no reason to overreact to it. Jim would absolutely eviscerate that quote. If he was here today, we'd probably spend 2 hours on it. We're not going to do that today. We'll only spend 90 minutes on it. But here's what I would say. To your point on Schilt, like Manny Machado would be in a legitimate slump, let's say. Let's say he was 2 for 30 without a homer over, a 9-game stretch.
July was bad, I believe, last year.
July, let's say he hit like 2 home runs and hit like $150. And not only would he, it's one thing to defend the player and be like, listen, we have seen his track record. Look at what he did previously. We trust he's going to get out of it and hit like he did in June, in August. But, he's been going through it. He's working on it. He's in early. He's working with our hitting coaches. He's going to get out of it. It's one thing to say that. That's completely fair and reasonable. It's another thing when you ask someone about a 2 for 30 slump or a 150 batting average in a month. And then all of a sudden the reaction is, well, this is a future Hall of Famer. And, like this is Manny. And he would just go above and beyond and out of his way to offer this effusive praise that didn't make any sense considering the circumstance that the Padres were in. Now, I think by and large it worked. I think it played in the clubhouse because he always had the backs of his player. It's better than the opposite. I think they did respect him. I do think he communicated differently in the clubhouse than outside of it. And they won 90 games back-to-back years. So some of it really did work. And Craig Stammen has a lot of work to do to even get there, where you're winning 90 plus games, where you have the backing of your team and you're putting your team in a position to win in the postseason. I'll give him benefits of doubts. I'll give him time. I said yesterday, it's not like in the 4th game of the season, I'm gonna be like, what were they thinking with that pinch hitter? I mean, that's not going to be fair. It's not going to be perfect. Mike Schilt was a more seasoned veteran manager, but I am curious to know, what does a Craig Stammen managed team look like? And we'll see that as the season plays out.
Right. And what happens when things aren't going well? But
exactly.
It was great last year when it was, what are they, 14-3, 17-3? I forgot the record.
Their start. That's right.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. And people were abuzz. And it was like, this team's got real World Series aspirations. And then June and July, it wasn't quite the same. And that's where I felt like the wheels with Mike Schilt came off a little bit. It's fun to go to the press conference when you're winning a bunch of games. It's great. Everyone's singing your praises. What happens when it's not? That's where I think we're going to get to see Craig Stammen in the middle of the season.
All right, we're switching gears. John Canzano, who does a great job reporting on all things college athletics, including the Pac-12. He had some really excellent reporting earlier today on the Pac-12 2026 schedule release, which directly impacts, of course, San Diego State. So John Canzano from JohnCanzano.com will join us next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by California Air Resource Board. In baseball news, the Tigers signed veteran Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million deal. Verlander, who turns 43 on the 20th, spent his first 13 seasons with the Tigers. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein is retiring after 11 seasons. He was a second round pick in 2015 and was the longest tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons of his NFL career with the team. We have Lakers basketball tonight on 760 when they take on Wemby and the Spurs. And we've got a couple outs according to that game. LeBron has been ruled out with foot arthritis. Luka is out again. Austin Reeves is out, and Marcus Smart is also out. The big news with James missing the game tonight is he will not make the 65 game threshold required to be eligible for annual awards, which means his 21-year streak of being all NBA is going to come to an end. Are you ready to cut the cost with a modern fleet? Advanced technology, zero-emission trucks are cheaper to fuel and maintain, easier to service, and have a smooth and powerful ride. Visit arb.ca.gov/ZEV truck stop.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. We've got John Canzano with us right now, JohnCanzano.com, taking a few minutes for us. He's about to begin his radio show later this afternoon. Some excellent reporting today. If you are a Pac-12 fan, if you're a fan of San Diego State, make sure to check out the work that John is doing at his website, JohnCanzano.com, reporting today about the future of Pac-12 scheduling. So, John, what's the latest here? Because they might do something that is basically unique to college athletics at the FBS level, right? You're reporting that they're expected to announce a schedule that includes flex scheduling. For our listeners that haven't seen that, what does that entail? And thanks for joining.
Yeah, you bet. Look, this is something the Big Ten Conference looked at a year and a half ago, when they were talking about automatic bids to the college football playoff. Now, they backed away from it, but the idea being that week 13 of the Pac-12 football season, this coming season in 2026, week 13 will be a flex schedule week. Now, you're going to get an announcement. I believe the Pac-12 is going to roll this out tomorrow. There may be a little after dark element to the rollout, but the Pac-12 is going to roll out this schedule. They're going to say, hey, here's weeks 1 through 12. And by the way, week 13 is a little different. How they're going to do this is week 13 will not count in the regular season schedule standings. It'll count as a win or a loss, but it won't count towards the conference championship. The conference championship participants will be determined by week 12. Week 13 will be a one-off. And in week 13, you're going to get 4 teams announced tomorrow as home teams, 4 teams announced as road teams. And then the league will have, with a 6-day window before those games are kicked off in week 13, they'll have the ability to change the visiting teams and shuffle them around a little bit. And one theoretical advantage of that is, hey, if you have a team that is jockeying for position in the college football playoff, and you think getting a little different matchup, whether it be a better matchup or ensuring a win, is a strategic advantage to the Pac-12, the Pac-12 can do that. Another advantage would be, let's just say hypothetically, San Diego State and Utah State are playing in week 12, and they play a game in week 12, and then wait a minute, they're scheduled to they're going to be the conference championship matchup in 2 weeks later. And by the way, week 13 gives you a chance to kind of shuffle things around. So you can avoid some redundancy by saying, hey, look, if these teams are going to play each other in week 13 and they're going to play each other in the championship game, let's change week 13. Let's have Fresno State come in and play San Diego State instead. So it's going to create some creative element. The TV partners, I'm told, love this because they like the idea of creating more attractive matchups, but it's going to be a real interesting week 13 in particular, but there's some other nuances in the schedule as well. We can talk about those.
All right. That's pretty fascinating. Yeah. Give us some additional nuances, because again, it's like the Pac-12 in today's landscape is entirely unique with the size of its league, right? I mean, an 8-team league is essentially unprecedented in an era where you have 18 team leagues. So what else is the Pac-12 thinking with their scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, look, I look around the Big Ten, the SEC this year, the ACC even, the Big 12. I have a hard time figuring out who's good.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't play each other, right? There's no crossover. And we're looking at an ACC championship game where, Miami should have been in that game and they're nowhere near it because of the way they schedule. So The Pac-12, you're going to get the opposite end of the spectrum. These teams are going to see a lot of each other. They're going to all play each other. There's some matchups I'm circling. You know, I want to see San Diego State and Boise State play.
Sure.
I think that's going to be a really big game. I was on Boise radio earlier today, and they're excited about playing the Aztecs. Like they're going, hey, that's going to be a big annual game for us. They were looking back last year to Snapdragon this last season. I was there. I came out for that game because it was such a big game. It was rainy and everything, but it was. You're going to see a lot of that circling on the calendar. But these teams are all going to play each other, and then Week 13 is going to happen, and 6 days before those kickoffs, you may be told, hey, the matchups are changing, and here's what's going to happen. Some other things that are going on, everyone's going to have one Friday night game during the season, or the option for a Friday night game. And I say option because it will be up to the TV partners whether or not that's a Friday night game or a Saturday game. I am told the only caveat there is that Texas State will not play a Friday night game. They will play a Thursday night game, because of high school football in the state of Texas is so big, they're not going head to head with high school football in Texas. So they're going to Texas State will get a home Thursday night game. Everybody else will play only one Friday night game. I asked, a source that, will this be a Pac-12 after dark? Will you lean into that branding? They said, why wouldn't we? They think they're going to go full throttle with sort of branding those games as after dark specials. You're going to see a lot of that. I don't think we're going to get 8 p.m. kickoffs. We won't get kickoff times tomorrow, but the kickoff times will be announced in May and June. But I think we're going to see some 7s, some 7:30s. But I think you're going to see some day games as well, because the CW wants day games.
I'm curious to get your thoughts. John Canzano, JohnCanzano.com. And again, for our listeners, make sure to check out his reporting online. Some really great stuff for Aztec fans and Pac-12 football fans. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the North Dakota State addition to the Mountain West and why now. It comes in February. They'll be in the league for 2026, seemingly maybe adding some security, a strength in numbers element to it. But why is North Dakota State joining the Mountain West now?
North Dakota State is looking around. They're having some problems. They can't get anybody to play them. None of the FBS schools want to play them. And so they've beat up on the FCS division. They've watched a number of their head coaches go on to join FBS schools. They held off Oregon State in this last hiring cycle by telling Tim Polasek, their coach, that they were going to try to get to the FBS level. Like, you don't have to go somewhere to get there. We'll get there. And so I think there's a little bit of that going on. Plus, there's a little bit of envy, right? They watched Appalachian State go FBS. They looked over and they saw JMU playing in a playoff game. They're like, hey, that used to be us. And so I think they're looking over going, if we're going to jump, if football is going to become, college football is going to become 60 to 80 teams competing in the top division in like 2032 and beyond, now's the time to duck under the rope and try to get into that group. And so they're going in. They're obviously spending like $20 million to get into the Mountain West. They're going to have to invest a minimum of $10 million a year in their football program. This isn't for everyone, but I think they've kind of looked around FCS and they've gone, all right, we won this thing. And in fact, in the last decade, 5 teams that we beat for national championships are now FBS schools, including Appalachian State, including JMU. And so I think they're looking over going, for their standpoint, it makes sense. For the Mountain West, it's very curious timing for me. And I'm looking at this and I'm always asking questions and I'm always going, okay, what is really going on? And I really do think for Gloria Navarez in the Mountain West Conference, this is about defense. She is playing defense. She knows when you get down to like 8 schools and you lose an Air Force or a UNLV, you're in big trouble. So I think she's fortifying by adding Northern Illinois. She's fortifying by adding North Dakota State. I think the fact that it came right after the announcement of the media rights money is very curious to me. Does she know that UNLV and Air Force are not happy with the dollars? Does she suspect that like they're looking over at the Pac-12 going, hey, they're getting more money, they're getting more exposure? Maybe. But I do think it's a defensive move on behalf of the Mountain West, because I think they know like having 10 football playing schools is better than having 8 for them, because there is a flight risk, I think, that is ongoing with UNLV and Air Force. And I think that will be a storyline headed towards this summer, July 1st, another deadline, right, for the Mountain West. If UNLV and Air Force are going to bolt, keep an eye on July 1st as well.
Would you be surprised, John, if the Pac-12 remained at 8 football members for 2027? As in, how much of a priority will it be to get that 9th school to get to 8 conference games with 8 different opponents?
I would be shocked if they don't have at least a football only edition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are going to go shopping. I think they are looking for another member. I think they have, sort of laid up for right now. They're focused on getting the football schedule out, scheduling their conference championship game, the football championship game. That will also be part of the announcement tomorrow. I am told they're going to announce that it will be a home game for the highest seeded team. There will not be a neutral site game. So if San Diego State has the best record in the Pac-12, they will host that conference championship game. They're focused on the basketball championship tournaments, the men's and women's tournaments. I'm told are going to Vegas. They're negotiating with MGM right now, whether it's going to be MGM Garden Arena or it's going to be the Michelob Ultra Arena over at Mandalay Bay is to be determined. I think it's going to be one of those two sites. It will not be T-Mobile because T-Mobile is booked right now with the Big Ten women's tournament in 27 and the men's tournament in 28. I think they ideally want to be back in T-Mobile in 29, but I think the next 2 years could be MGM Garden Arena. It could be MGM Michelob Ultra Arena over at Mandalay Bay. I think, the basketball tournament's going to be there. But beyond this stuff, then comes a little bit of a rebrand. They're going to tweak the logo, I'm told. They're going to, finalize all the game times and the kickoffs. And then I think June and July will be about, hey, who do you add from a football only perspective, if it is just a football move, or is UNLV back in play after they see some media rights numbers? Because the Pac-12 now has some dollars, and I am told that those distributions in the Pac-12 per school should be above $7 million per school. And if you're in the Mountain West and you're getting 2.8 million, plus they're subsidizing to get you to 3.5 million, maybe you have something to think about if you're UNLV.
Fascinating reporting. Again, you can see it all at JohnCanzano.com. You've been all over the story. Realignment never stops. And the Pac-12, I know people in San Diego are excited to see the future of this league as it plays out in real time. So, John, appreciate you taking time. Yeah. Have a good show today, and thanks for doing it.
You bet. Thanks, fellas.
All right, JohnCanzano.com. Joining us here on San Diego Sports 760. We're going to react to that, get back to the Padres here until 6 p.m. We're giving away Aztec basketball tickets, by the way, for a week from tonight against Grand Canyon coming up as well. We've got tickets to see Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena at San Diego State as well. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, San Diego Sports 760. So I tried in earnest today, guys. I've sent 3 bracketology related texts to get a bracketologist on the show. Just denied left and right. Like Lucas Harkins.
They denied you?
Like, oh, I got to pick up my kids, or oh, I'm watching like Maryland against Maryland Eastern Shore. Like, bracketologists are like a funny animal because they're like studying brackets like day and night. So when you try to get someone on in the Pacific time zone, it's like 3 PM. Like, oh, I'm already watching like Penn State, Maryland. Like, why would I come on the show at 3 PM?
You wonder how much voting in terms of Heisman, NFL MVP is a little bit different because the NFL is always primetime slots, but Heisman, college basketball, how many West Coast teams have gotten screwed out of where they should rightfully be simply because people on the East Coast are not watching San Diego State when they have an 8 o'clock tip on the West Coast and it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night there.
Is such you said it perfectly. It's like how everything is made for 2/3 of Americans that are in the Eastern time zone. Because I think that's right. I think between 60 and 65% of TV households are in one of the 4 time zones, right? Because Central and Mountain has 0 people. Mountain
no one lives in the mountain.
Mountain is Denver. You know what I mean? But think about that. I'm making this up, but maybe like the Dakotas through like, flyover states. Like there's not a lot of population in Mountain. Central has more because the Midwest would be my guess. There's more, but they're like the Clevelands and the Cincinnatis, but not the New Yorks and the Bostons and the Philadelphias and the DCs and the Atlantas and the Miamis. Like that's all on the Eastern Seaboard. Now in the West, you probably have, 20-25% of the country's population, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, so on and so forth. But to your overall point, it's all slanted towards the East, whether it's who makes the college football playoff, who's the MVP of a league, what your bracket looks like. Like I cannot be convinced that is not the case. Who's won Heisman trophies? To your point, like I cannot be convinced. And it's just because it's humanistic. It's like if you're in New York City and you're controlling the narrative, nobody is watching in New York City. Like they're not even watching like the Lakers if they start at 7:30 Pacific.
Right. And that's to your point. In the only reason the Lakers are talked about is because the Lakers are such a big brand that you have to talk about the Lakers if you're a national show. Yeah. To that end, how many big time college basketball programs or college football programs in the Pac-12 after dark you used to have great matchups like USC, Oregon, UCLA, up Arizona State, like fun matchups. And not that either of those teams outside of Oregon have really contended in the last decade and a half, but they're just not watching. So of course, when it comes down to Alabama and these schools are trying to get into the college football playoff, there's always a little bit of a bias. Look at college basketball last year. North Carolina with the brand being on the East Coast, one of the most iconic brands in college basketball. Please do not tell me that did not have a massive impact on why they slid in there. Now they earned it. They beat the Aztecs and went on to have not a big run, but won a game.
But did they? I've always said this. It's like, do you earn it because you win in the tournament, or did you not earn it? You know what I mean? Like you can let any team in. Like right now, there's a team right now in college basketball that's underperforming. I'm sure. Like I'm just making it up. Like just throw out a team. Wake Forest. Well, they might go 15-15. They're not going to be in the tournament. If you happen to put them in Dayton and match them up with New Mexico, again, theoretical, they could win the game. I don't think it really validates their inclusion.
That's a good point.
Just like when a team, and to your point, the opposite side of that, and we didn't see a lot of this last year because I think nationally people do respect San Diego State's overall work under Brian Dutcher and Steve Fisher, but they lost by 30 points. And there was some narrative out there like, shouldn't have been in, lost by 30. Like, no, once you're in, whatever you do once you're in, has nothing to do with your body of work.
100%.
It's like if you get to the national championship game and Duke lost to UNLV 40 years ago, 90-60. Did they not deserve to play for the national championship?
Take the college football playoff right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Miami barely squeaked in. Now, I thought Miami should have been in. I thought Notre Dame should have been in.
Right.
I thought Alabama should have been on the outs. I don't think you can lose to to Georgia in the SEC championship game and then get a bonus because you beat Georgia earlier in the year by saying you beat the SEC champ. It's crazy college football and college basketball how they determine rankings. But had Miami gotten blown out in round 1, let's say they almost lost to A&M. Remember that game? It was a defensive slugfest. They got the pick in the back of the end zone. If they had lost, that would have been the talking point the next day is Notre Dame got screwed because they let Miami in over them. That conversation quieted down because they obviously went to the Natty and beat Ohio State and these really talented teams. But I like what you're saying there. It is true. Like, just because you go on a run doesn't mean that you didn't have the qualifications to be in it in the first place over other teams.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, but I like it. Your general point. I feel it all the time in San Diego. Having the perspective of having lived in the East and the West, what I feel way more in San Diego than I ever felt when I lived in the East is that you're basically an afterthought. It's like,
right.
It's almost like when a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't really make a sound.
Totally.
That often occurs to me with San Diego in general, not as much with the Padres. I think the Padres have been in the national consciousness of baseball fans, though certainly not to the level of the Dodgers, but they're also in the West, but they've also won at this ridiculous clip. And to your point, to talk that sport nationally, you almost have to talk the Dodgers, just like to talk the sport of the NBA nationally, you have to talk about the LA Lakers. But there's something about, you're right. It's almost like it falls on deaf ears when you're playing late at night.
Totally.
If it's Major League Baseball, if it's college football, if it's college basketball. I do love the Pac-12 After Dark in general branding. I go back to the Reggie Bush Fresno State game like 25 years ago, which was like some random night game at the Coliseum. But again, it's like there's advantages and disadvantages sometimes of playing at 10 o'clock in the East.
Right. Take like the what's the on college football, the 9 o'clock big noon kickoff.
Yep.
The whole country is seeing that, even though it's 9 a.m. on the West Coast.
But everyone's awake, right?
Everyone's awake. It's Saturday. It's 12 o'clock for everyone else on the East Coast. So that highlight is being shown throughout the day. Whereas if you take an NFL Sunday, maybe people get up late on NFL Sunday and are kind of locked in the NFL, didn't look at all the scores and really go back and see what happened on the college football night games. Same with college basketball. And then all of a sudden you get down to the voting. This is why like Stafford edging out May by 1 vote for the MVP was kind of impressive, because usually that's not the case. Usually if you're taking a New England Patriot or a Los Angeles Ram, the benefit of the doubt is probably going to the New England Patriot because more people are simply watching that because of the time zone.
But the one thing I would say, though, to put a bow on it for the NFL is the NFL time slots don't differ based on time zone. So the Lakers will play at 7 o'clock in the West. There's no NFL team that has ever played at 7 o'clock in the West. Other than that dumb Monday Night Football doubleheader they do with like Greeny
like
and Golick in like 2017. Right. You know, like, yeah, there's one random Raiders-Chargers game. Nobody cares because it's the Raiders and the Chargers by and large. You know what I mean? In modern football,
right.
You know, one of the teams is irrelevant. The other one's quasi-relevant. You're not going to put the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks on at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Right. It's not happening.
At any point. They just put the game on at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's almost like time zone doesn't matter as much in football. It's like all the teams are national, right? They all fill the same time zone.
Right. They own a day of the week.
Yeah, but in the other sports, it really is. I'm telling you, man, living in the East, it's like you don't see the Lakers. But when you live in the West, you still see the Celtics.
Right. The Celtics are getting played on Sports Center all night. Whereas the night Sports Center in Los Angeles, which used to be there, wouldn't get the Laker, Kings, and Clipper highlights because they had already put in the highlight package before they went live, which is 100%. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Sammy, appreciate you, man.
You guys are the best.
Thanks for hanging. Sammy Long, you can catch him each and every weekday right here at noon on San Diego Sports 760. We'll get back to spring training opening, pitchers and catchers reporting for the Padres, the latest from Peoria. In addition, we've got Aztec basketball tickets to give away. We'll do it in this 3 o'clock hour coming up. San Diego State Grand Canyon coming up a week from tonight at VA House Arena. We'll give those tickets away in the 3 o'clock hour. Hour 2 coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
Their support is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Tigers signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million deal today. Verlander, who turns 43 on the 20th, spent his first 13 seasons with Detroit. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein is retiring after 11 seasons. Havenstein was a second-round pick in 2015 and was the longest tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons of his NFL career with the team. We've got Lakers basketball tonight on 760 when they take on Wemby and the Spurs. At least what's left of the Lakers, because they're going to be without LeBron, without Luka, without Austin Reeves, and without Marcus Smart. You can hear that game right here. Like I said, tonight, pregame starts at 7:15, and the tip will be at 7:30. Victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique. You're not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, we have Aztec basketball tickets to give away a week from tonight. San Diego State, this is a homestand. They'll have Nevada on Saturday, then Grand Canyon on Tuesday. So back-to-back home games in the league. We'll give away tickets for the Tuesday game a week from tonight. We'll do that this hour. That's San Diego State and Grand Canyon. We'll get back to the Padres. I did want to follow up on something that Brent just mentioned regarding the Lakers. Remember, you don't have to go back that far, Brent. A year ago, this seismic league-altering trade of Luka Doncic, right? This unbelievable move that forever changed the career of Luka and then the Dallas Mavericks and seemingly the LA Lakers. But I'm left to think about what it truly has meant to this point for LA. Because last year, the Lakers had a disappointing exit in the first round of the NBA playoffs. This year, it's not like they've been bad, but in a fierce Western Conference, it's not like they're a front runner either. Like you look at the NBA standings right now, and there's still roughly 30 games to play. And the Lakers could secure a home playoff series in the opening round. But right now, if the season ended, they'd be the 5 seed, and they're only a half game better than the 6 seed and only a game and a half better than the 7 seed. So they could be anywhere from, let's say, as high as the 3 seed. They're not going to catch San Antonio or Oklahoma City. And they could be probably as low as the 7 seed. Here's the point I'm making. In all likelihood, the season will end without the Lakers even appearing in the NBA Finals, obviously. It would be an upset for them to beat either Oklahoma City or San Antonio. There's no assurance they even get to the Western Conference semifinals or finals to play in Oklahoma City or San Antonio. Luka's young. I think he's 26. So they have opportunities. The LeBron era will end, most likely in LA at the end of this season. And maybe that'll be the beginning of Luka's true reign in Los Angeles. But these 2 seasons, the tail end of last year when they had the disappointing exit into this year where the expectation now is not for them to reach the NBA Finals. I remember saying this with Jim, Brent. I kind of doubled down on it now. Yes, it's a league-altering trade. Yes, it's changed the course of the Dallas Mavericks for forever. I just don't know if Luka's ever going to equal what Lakers fans thought he would equal. And he may because he's 26. But the idea that like he's going to win 3 rings and they're going to come in 4 years and this is what everyone's been waiting for. It's an inevitability. Is it with the Thunder and the Spurs and the state of the Lakers franchise? Like, is that going to happen at some point with Luka in LA?
It depends what they do after LeBron. You know, once LeBron leaves, you know, to a much, much larger extent, it's kind of like the Yu Darvish thing. Because once LeBron leaves, they're going to have all this money to go out and get all those things that they couldn't get when LeBron was there, you know, because they couldn't afford it. So, you know, once he leaves, it depends on, you know, what they surround Luka with, honestly, because if they surround him, you know, because he took Dallas to the finals with just him and Kyrie, right, and they didn't really have that much, you know, other than like some good role players and stuff on that Dallas team. So he's still good enough that if he gets hot during the playoffs, then they can make a run. You know, with all these injuries like tonight, it'll be interesting to see because Shaq said this weekend that he said that he thinks it's going to be Lakers Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. And they
OKC.
Yeah, and they were kind of giving him crap about it. So we'll see if he changes his mind now that, you know, a quarter of the team is sitting out
I
tonight.
mean, how ridiculous is tonight that you have these two Western Conference, I don't know the right word, but powers. Certainly San Antonio's had this great year, and the Lakers are the Lakers, and they've got LeBron and Luka, but they're not playing, to Brent's point in the update. San Antonio is a 14-point favorite in Los Angeles tonight. Now, it makes complete sense. I'm not saying, oh my God, when you don't have the best players in the league available to you, I don't care if the game's being played in LA, San Antonio, or on Mars. It's going to be very hard tonight. Now, it's the NBA. You never know. In any one game, somebody could be in the game. But also, we learned today that LeBron's streak of all NBA will end because the NBA now has a rule, which I like, where you have to play a minimum number of games to be eligible to be all NBA. You have to play 65, which I think is reasonable. There's 82 games. And I think 55 is too low. And I think 75, that's probably too high. There are injuries. You could miss a week. 75 is too high. I like 65. I wouldn't be opposed to 67, 68, 69, but whatever. 65 is the number. By missing tonight, he cannot play in 65 regular season games. So his streak, which is an NBA record of 21 consecutive seasons as all NBA, comes to an end. What I respect about the all NBA award is it's legitimate as opposed to the Pro Bowl. Now, the NFL does have a caveat to the Pro Bowl, which is it's all NFL, is it not? All pro, excuse me. All pro, which is not Shedeur Sanders, by the way. We make such a big deal, and we're guilty of this. Like, oh my gosh, Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders, they're all pro. No, they're not all pro. They appeared in the flag football contest, the cute little games, but they weren't all pro. What I respect about the NBA is they don't get cute really with it. It's like you've got your all NBA, even the All-Star game. I mean, these All-Star game participants are not like the Pro Bowl participants. These are legitimate rosters that we're going to see next week in LA.
Well, yeah, because they don't do like the Pro Bowl where it's like,
everyone sits.
Hey, you got in because the 12 small forwards that got voted in before you all said no.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And by the way, some people said when Kawhi got in within the last week, remember the initial roster did not include Kawhi, but I think they only announced 14 of the 15 members or whatever happened. I don't know if there was an injury or if there was a 15th spot that the league was able to put onto the team and Kawhi was put on the team. I'm going to tell you this right now. Speaking of like how this is anti-NFL, Kawhi Leonard is having one of the best years of his career. Now, he hasn't been fully healthy. I know we've heard that before, but he has actually played a good amount. Like this year, Kawhi's played 39 games. There's been about 50. So he's missed 11 or 12 games so far for the Clippers, who are scorching hot. At one point, they were 7-21. 7-21. They're now 2 games under 500. So they're scorching hot. This is Kawhi this year. Listen to these numbers for a 34-year-old, okay, who's had the injuries and the surgeries. 28 points per game on 50% shooting, 6.3 rebounds, 3.7 assists. He's shooting 39% from three, shooting 91.5% from the free throw line this year. He really is like, just look at his body of work. He's never had more 40-point games in a season than right now, 4. He's never had 4 in a season. I'm just saying that his season right now stacks up statistically with some of the best seasons he's ever had in the NBA.
Well, he's going to have to do even better now because he's the man there now.
Harden's gone.
Yeah, Harden's gone. He's going to have to, do all this. He's going to have to do everything now because he's the only one that's left.
If the season ended today, this would be the most points Kawhi Leonard has ever averaged in a season. 20. I mean, 28's a big number when you think about the way Kawhi plays. He's never averaged more than 27.1. And that came his first year with the Clippers in 2018-19 when he was in his 20s. And now he's 34 and playing some of the best basketball of his career. I really want to see if the Clippers, they're going to be in, like it's likely playing. They did too much harm early. You can't start 7-21 in the Western Conference to be a 5 seed. So there'll be a 7 or 8 or 9 probably in all likelihood. I'd like to see Kawhi, against the Spurs in like a 7-2 series or potentially against Oklahoma City, like in a 1-8 playoff series. But I'm just telling you, when he has been healthy, and there was the stretch earlier this year, we had like 5 games that were so insane that it was like similar to like Kobe in 2007, like 50% shooting and 40 points per game and all the rebounds and the assists. So I don't know. It's a long way of me saying this. The Luka trade commanded so much national attention. I wonder if he ever lives up to the attention that was drawn in that moment in Los Angeles. And he's got plenty of time. He does. I do buy that. And Brent's 100% right. They can build the whole thing around him. They have the advantages of being the Lakers. They'll have the payroll flexibility. And maybe it's all put together for Luka in his prime. He's brilliant. He is. He's a brilliant player. But do I think he's as impactful? Answer this, bro. Is Luka's impact on winning and losing as impactful as LeBron in LeBron's true prime? No, but LeBron's like the greatest player ever, or one of them. Is Luka's impact in winning and losing the same as like Victor Wembanyama, who has that size which just cannot be duplicated? It's like, how much of an impact can you have as just the lead guard, where there's a lot of good guards in the NBA now? He's as good as they get offensively. His offensive skill set is ridiculous. It's just, is it enough to solely carry a team on your back and win an NBA title? He's gotten close, but he hasn't done that.
The difference, I think, between, if Wemby goes down, I think the Spurs are in more trouble opposed to right now if Luka goes down, because they still have LeBron. So but I think in the future, once LeBron's not there, then yeah, I think he's going to be more important. And I don't know, he shoots a lot with LeBron there now, but I kind of feel like he's going to shoot even more when LeBron leaves, if that's possible. Like Kobe levels of, field goal attempts at certain, times. So I don't know. It'll be interesting too, because without LeBron there, to see what kind of other stars they might be able to attract to LA.
That's the one thing they will be able to do.
Because, like right now, it doesn't matter if, Kevin Durant or Giannis want to go play there. Logistically, it's just not going to work out. So, once they free up that, max contract that LeBron has, we'll see who maybe wants to go there.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing we know about the Lakers is the world is their oyster. I mean, they've never had a lack of star-laden rosters. Now, it doesn't always work, although oftentimes it has in basketball history. You're right. You pair the right team or even player with Luka, and maybe unlocks it to like an nth degree. That is a possibility, but you got to remember, like the way Oklahoma City has played for now multiple years on end. Like even look at what we've talked about San Antonio this year. Then to further go beyond that, Denver, Minnesota, Houston. I mean, it won't be easy even if they are the quote unquote best team in the Western Conference with Luka, right? With those rosters. Now, will they break through over the next 3 to 5 years with Luka? Yeah, probably. Yes, they probably will get to an NBA Finals over the next 3 to 5 years with Luka. I don't know if it's inevitable or not, and I don't know at what level they're going to win with him. I think if you told me the day of the trade, Brent, he was going to win one championship in LA, that felt like it was underselling it in real time. And I don't know if he's ever going to win more than one. Maybe he'll win 5, or maybe he won't win at all. I guess that's the beauty of sports. All right, let's give away some Aztec tickets on the other side. San Diego State Grand Canyon. That's coming up a week from tonight at Viejas Arena. We'll give those away. On the other side, we'll look ahead for San Diego State basketball. If you missed our conversation with John Canzano, he had some reporting on the Pac-12 football schedule, which he expects to be released tomorrow. You'll hear our conversation coming up at 4:30. The latest from Peoria as well, with the Padres reporting for spring training. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we're giving away Aztec tickets coming up within the next 10 minutes. Do not go anywhere. Aztec tickets for a week from tonight against Grand Canyon. We'll give away in the next 10 minutes. Did want to note, this was off the text line. And he says, 760 says, can we mix in some SDFC? New kit just dropped, and we have a cup game at 5. I should have had Darren on the show today, but I've been running around all day. Darren, if you're listening, feel free to call in. But I will react to the kit. I would love to react to the kit. I will say, listen, when they initially dropped all the designs a year ago, right? Kit design, logo design, you know, there were some things in there that we liked, and there were some things in there like maybe you left some meat on the bone. You know, and that was year one. It was year one, which I completely understand. It's not like you don't have to hit the Grand Slam with your first ever kit or uniform in soccer. I get it. They changed them a lot, by the way, which honestly I enjoy. So they unveiled a new kit here today, and I'm just trying to pull it up right now. I've seen it throughout the course of the day. I just sent it actually over to Brent, and I do think it's a significant upgrade. I really do. From year one, there was nothing wrong with the kits or the uniforms in year one, but I do prefer what they unveiled today to what we saw probably in 2025. And, you know, I don't fully know how to describe, like, how would you describe this look, Brent? Like, it's unique. It's more colorful.
It's the white one, right? With the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like their normal white jersey, only with like
splash of paint,
colored like barbed wire almost line. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Is it just kind of looks like, you know, like when you'd have that barbed wire tattoo that people used to always get on their arms, if it's just wrapping around, you know, the jersey in various areas in orange and blue. It looks like
they're calling it their community kit. And it goes on.
Unity kit.
Unity, yeah, and community. It says introducing the 2026 community kit, unprecedented unity. And a couple of notes like energy through diversity is one of the taglines. Our community's energy and colors bleeding through, fueling our passion. There's also like a kit tag or jersey tag that I like. What's that noise? Oh, okay. That says San Diego and Tijuana step forward together, celebrating our culture, our people, and our game. It says SDTJ, like on the I don't even know, at the bottom of the jersey, I want to say, or maybe it's on the sleeve. So there's some unique elements in here. And again, I think it's an upgrade, is what I would say. I mean, I firmly believe that. Like, this to me, from year one to year two, is progress. I want to see if the Padres make similar progress with City Connect. Like, City Connect initial was like, whoa. Now, it was to the credit of the Padres, even though it wasn't my cup of tea, it was very successful. You go to the ballpark, you see it constantly. You watch the games on TV. So credit to the Padres. It doesn't have to be for everyone. Same thing with SDFC. You know, they had a ton of merchandising success in year one, and that's a credit to them. And they'll probably have more in year two. I just happen to like the appeal of this more than what they debuted in year one. And that's a credit to them. You know, you adapt. You evolve. I have no idea what to expect for this Padres City Connect uniform that I would expect we'd see in February.
It's funny because last week or a week and a half ago when we were talking about like the Padres promotion schedule and everything, we laughed because they had that picture of the Tatis City Connect one, only it wasn't colored in yet. It was just like a plain like gray mold of the bobblehead.
Mm-hmm.
They keep pushing that out there because I've seen multiple things on social media of all the bobbleheads, and then there in the background there's just the uncolored Tatis mold just sitting there teasing everybody, waiting to be filled in with color.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. I really am. Let's see. They do look. Yeah, I mean, some people are. What do you think about it? You can find it easily. Just go to SDFC's website or find them on social media. What do you guys think? 70470. Start it with the word team. My one thing I've always said about logos, uniforms, kits, jerseys in San Diego. Here's the one thing I would say about San Diego specific. And each city could probably make this claim. San Diego is so unique to itself that don't settle for bland. Now, that doesn't mean take it to the nth degree and do what the Padres did with their City Connect. which to me was like, that didn't necessarily scream San Diego to me. There was a little bit of South Beach in there. It wasn't screaming Baja California to me either, truthfully, even though they tried to combine Tijuana, Baja with San Diego. Okay, I get the college try. And again, it was successful to their credit. My issue with like the 2017 era of the Padres is like, why are you wearing a Navy uniform right now that says the word San Diego in a generic font? You have a history, you have strong color combinations, you're in a vibrant city with every color in the world attached to it. So that was kind of my issue with like the mid 2010s Padres. If I had an issue with what was unveiled last year from an SDFC perspective, I would have said, hey, go a little further with it. And I think they did that in 2026. So I credit them for that. Well rolled out, like unveiling, by the way, in general from SDFC. They do a really good job with their marketing. And not just with their marketing, with their team. I mean, look at what they did last year on field. They're playing, by the way, tonight. If they win tonight, they're moving on in this cup tournament that they're in right now. And that's not really necessarily, I wish I could provide more on that. I just can't, but they are playing tonight and we'll see if they can move on or not. I know they won their first match at Snapdragon 4-1 and now that return match coming up in Mexico later on today. But yeah, credit to SDFC for their new community kit. I do think it's an upgrade over what they had in 2025. All right, I promise you Aztec tickets. We're going to give them away right now. Plus talk about San Diego State, what they have coming up on the other side. If you want 2 tickets to the Aztecs game against Grand Canyon coming up a week from tonight at Viejas Arena, be caller 5 to 877-767-4760 and do it right now. Pick up the phone and call. We've got 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs and the Lopes a week from tonight. Caller 5, 877-767-4760. We've got tickets to see Charlie Puth coming up as well here until 6 on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Staples. The Tigers signed veteran pitchers Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million deal today. Verlander, who will turn 43 on the 20th, spent his first 13 seasons with the Tigers. And the Lakers are going to be without LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, and Marcus Smart for their big matchup tonight with Wemby and the Spurs, which you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760 with pregame coverage starting at 7:15. The tip will be around 7:30. Staples has hot deals and super low prices on everything for your business. And right now, brand your business at Staples with up to 30% off custom labels. Exclusions apply. Shop at Staples in-store, online, or in the app. Ends April 18th. Visit staples.com/print for details.
All right, John Jim for San Diego Sports 760. If you missed John Canzano on the Pac-12 and its future schedule for 2026, which is going to impact San Diego State, some really good reporting on the Pac-12 and what's coming later this week. You'll hear from John Canzano. He covers the Pac-12 and college athletics. You'll hear that conversation coming up at 4:30. We're going to get back to the Padres as well. We just gave away some Aztec tickets. We will have a bracketologist on the show this week. Mark my words. Mark my words. No more bracketologists. No, we will have a bracketologist this week. Mark my words.
I feel like I could take like an online course, like how you can become a minister and like do weddings overnight. Yeah, maybe I'll become a bracketologist overnight, and then you can interview me on Thursday.
I'll tell you what, man. Brent, for the last 2 years, 2 seasons, San Diego State has sat firmly on the bubble. Last year, they were the second to last team in, above North Carolina, the last team in. They'd play each other in the first 4. But they were as in we were sweating it out, so to speak. I think some people felt really good about the Aztec chances heading into Selection Sunday. Others did not. There were a lot of bid stealers last year. And as those bids are coming off the board, you're like, uh-oh, what is this going to mean for San Diego State? Right now, I look at Joe Lunardi, who is not the greatest indicator of what's going to play out, but he's got the most acclaim because he's been doing it. I think he basically came up with the term. I don't know if he did, but he's been doing this for 30 plus years. Joe Lunardi at ESPN. And right now, if you go to Joe Lunardi's bracketology at ESPN, this was updated today. He's got San Diego State, the second to last team in the tournament, which is where they were last year, the second to last team in the tournament. In fact, the last 2 teams in, if the season ended today, by the way, it doesn't. Selection Sunday's in 33 days. Put a countdown. The last 2 teams in are Mountain West teams. San Diego State and New Mexico are the last 2 teams in. So, and Brent and I talked about this the other day, where it's like, I could basically boil it down to this. There are hundreds of college basketball games played every week. I don't even fully care. Because if San Diego State goes 6-1 in its last 7 games, in my opinion, and I have bias, it's going to be very hard to keep the Aztecs out of the field. Because if they go 6-1 in their last 7 games, they've only enhanced their metrics and overall resume. That's the simplest way to put it. And I mean, at that point, their body of work would be pretty good. Now, last year, they hung their hat on a win over a team that would play for the national championship, Houston. An amazing win against a top 5 team. The issue this year is there's no top 5 win to be found. I don't care what they do from here on out. They're not beating any top 5 team. They could beat everyone on their schedule from here on out until the NCAA tournament. No top 5 wins. Now, you could win the Mountain West tournament. Who even cares? Then you're just in. So last year was like, well, you're going to include them because of their resume. And once they're in, you could kind of put them towards the back of the field. But they got in because of that resume. They beat Houston. You could not keep them out. The issue this year that they're probably running into right now is, where is that win you just tangibly grab onto? And unfortunately, it's not for a lack of scheduling. I mean, they played Michigan and Arizona and Oregon and missing someone in there, Baylor. I mean, they played a legitimate non-conference schedule. They played the top 2 teams in America, arguably. Arizona didn't lose until last night. They had not lost a game until last night. So they played the schedule, and unfortunately, they haven't been rewarded for it. Now, they went 1-3 in those 4 games, and their one win Turns out Oregon would be injured, and they're like 8-15 or 9-14 right now. But with all that being said, good metrics, great year in the league at 11-2, 17-6 overall. So what does 6-1 mean? It means just sheerly you're 23-7 heading into the Mountain West tournament. And with, again, a strong non-conference strength of schedule, a good Mountain West, not the best league, but a good Mountain West, I just think that's enough. I just think that's going to be enough to get in over a 17-14 Big 12 team like Oklahoma State that's, 6-14 in the league and 17-14 overall. So that's what I'm going to hold out hope on. Now that requires going 6-1, Brent, down the stretch, which is not easy. I think 5-2, again, you might have to do some work in the Mountain West tournament, but I still stand by. I think 6-1 and San Diego State hopefully is dancing come Selection Sunday.
I think 6-1 will be enough. And, Sammy kind of touched on it a little bit in the first hour about just the program's tradition and reputation will help them out a little bit, because if it comes down to, San Diego State and some other school that, doesn't have, the coach pedigree like, Dutch and, hasn't been to, a Final Four or any of those things, they're going to kind of look at that and go, oh, well, there's San Diego State. That's the Brian Dutcher program. That's a really good program. And then, kind of like they used to do in football with like bowl games, to where if it came down to like two teams that were pretty much the same, they would take, oh, yeah, that was, Rocky Longs. Yeah. So then they would give them the game just for the benefit of the doubt for what they've done in the past. So I think that they've built a good enough track record that if they go 6-1, that they'll be in no problem. Like I also said, if they go 6-2 though, I'm going to be worried. Or not 6-2, but they lose 2 games, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the calculus, the math, whatever you want to say, like all of that changes based on, if you lose an extra game. I mean, that's a big difference. 6-1 to 5-2, when you're only dealing with 7 games, that's a big difference. The other thing is, there's certain games in there you're going to have to win. And preferably, like if you're going 6-1, I'm going to feel good no matter who they beat and who they lose to, right? Because 6-1, 6-1. But I would really like to get that win at home over Utah State. Or I'd like to get that win on the road against New Mexico, which is also a quad 1 opportunity. They have a couple of others in there as well. But like, you want to, again, last year you had Houston, you had Creighton. This year you've beat New Mexico at home, which is a good win, but it's not this incredible win. You could use that additional win to bolster, that additional high quality win to bolster your resume.
Are you worried that, say they go 6-1, but they don't go, it's not an impressive enough 6-1 by the metrics to where, the team they should have beat by 20 points, they only won by 12.
Sure.
Are you worried about stuff like that maybe keeping them out to where, yeah, they went 6-1, but there was 3 teams on the schedule there that we were supposed to beat by 25 points and we only beat them by 15, to where, 10 years ago that would just seem silly, but now it's just the way basketball is.
It's a great question. I would say yes and no, because I go back to our point of like, are you telling me that because you beat Wyoming by 9, you're going to be outside looking in? I think it's going to be more likely you're outside looking in because you lost to Troy than because you won games, even if the margins aren't what they're supposed to be, and with these 7 games, it's like, I'm more concerned now with winning and losing, like that 6-1 point. I think I'm taking probably, Brent, 6-1, regardless of final score, because I think I'd prefer that to 5-2 with 5 blowouts, but 1 additional loss. I think I would take the 6 relatively close wins to the 5 convincing wins, but 1 additional loss. Because I feel like when you're on a knife's edge, it's more about overall record and just sheer number of wins than it's going to be about the metrics. That's how I'm seeing it right now.
I kind of feel too like the whole, you didn't beat them by 40 points like you're supposed to. Yep. It seems like they only hold like lower level teams, or like teams like San Diego State. You don't ever hear that about, oh, well, Duke played Clemson yesterday and they were supposed to beat them by 40 and they only won by 15.
Exactly
and nobody's like, oh, well, we're going to penalize Duke because they didn't win by 40. But if it's like San Diego State or any other Mountain West school or, someone that's not in a Power 5 conference, it's just like, oh, they were supposed to win by 40 and they only won by 39. Dock them 10 points.
That's exactly right. It's like, yeah, it's almost like the rules are written differently for different programs. And it's like you're either in a power league or you're not. And unfortunately, San Diego State isn't, although they're in a good league. Now, next year, you could argue they're in a better league. You're playing Gonzaga twice a year. So you fought a bet next year playing Gonzaga. Boise State's been in three of the last four. Utah State's been awesome, obviously, in recent history. Colorado State's been in 3 of the last 4. San Diego State, I think, has been in 13 of the last 15. And it would be like more than that if you include the pandemic year. So you know what I mean? They've been in a ton over the last 15 years. So you got 5 really high quality programs at the top, not to mention the chances of like the Oregon States and Washington States waking up. Like those are programs that have had success. It hasn't been sustained. During COVID, Oregon State was in the Elite 8 that one year. And then from there, I'm thinking Fresno State, okay, they've been down, but they're actually better right now. And then there's Texas State, who knows? But you're heading to a really good league. I think you're in a good league. You're heading to a better league is how I would look at it next year. All right, we're going to get to the wrap coming up at 4 p.m. We have Charlie Puth tickets to give away for April 22nd at Viejas Arena. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock hour. And John Canzano, JohnCanzano.com with more on Pac-12 football and basketball, all the logistics being ironed out as we speak. We might get an announcement tomorrow per John. If you missed our conversation, you'll hear it coming up at 4:30 right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Canzano on Pac-12 football. Schedule could be released as early as tomorrow. You'll hear from John Canzano. Coming up at 4:30, we have Charlie Puth tickets to give away. He's coming to Viejas Arena April 22nd. We'll do that as well in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll get back to what Craig Stammen had to say. It's spring training today with the Padres back in Peoria. So we'll get back to that in the 4 o'clock hour as well. But Brent and I have been watching for the last 2 hours a portion of the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan. And we're both kind of looking at each other like, some of these sports, how much money would you need to even attempt to participate in one of these sports? For example, we're watching ski jump. This thing is not for the faint of heart. I mean, they're all the way up there and they have no, what are these things called?
Poles.
They have no poles. Thank you. And they just leave their seat and go downhill at some ridiculous clip and then jump off like a cliff. And then, Brent, they're going how far? I don't know how far the distance is, like 100 kilometers or something in the air. Like, I would die attempting to do that. I kid you not. I would actually die if I start at the top of that thing without any poles, went down at that clip, tried to jump off of it, and then land. I think I would die.
Yeah, that's like over 3,000 feet.
They're traveling 3,000 feet? It makes sense because they're going down the mountain.
Yeah, we're Americans. I had to do the I had to have Siri do the translation.
They're going 3,000 feet. So
Yeah.
it's like there's some of these sports. Okay, like would I consider getting in a 4-man bobsled as like dude 3 with the other guys?
Where you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. I would consider that. Although, how can I jump in? I'm gonna fall down before I jump in that thing. Now, here's one I'll guarantee you I'll do. I'll do curling.
Oh, yeah, that's cleaning the game.
Stone.
Yeah.
Like what else is like? Would you even consider? Certainly,
I would do the cross country ski thing where you stop and shoot. Yeah.
Yeah, but cross country skiing is so hard.
It's not hard. It's just exhausting. There's a difference.
You would have a heart attack going uphill.
My dad used to be big into cross country
All
skiing.
right, so
It's not that hard. It's like marathon running. You know, the concept of it is
terrible.
Well, yes, but I just mean the concept of it is simple. You're just running. There's not like, anything on top of the running.
Why is it that we do that? Like in the winter games, and tell me if I'm wrong here. In the winter games, we'll travel cross country on skis, then whip out our rifle and shoot targets. But in the summer games during the marathon, we're not whipping out the rifle and shooting targets at the halfway point.
I have no idea.
You know what I mean? Because is it going back to like a hunting gathering aspect of living, like of sport? Because you could do that in wintertime or in summertime. But like, and now again, you got like the backpack on you with the rifle, right? In the back.
I would say though, in the Summer Olympics, they have, is it the decathlon thing?
Oh yeah, that thing's crazy, man.
So that kind of replaces the gun shoot thing.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know. Like I saw this on social media. You'll find this funny. Someone said the way it feels like the way they came up with some of the sports in the Winter Olympics, where two guys were sitting around at a bar and be like, I have an idea for a sport in the Winter Olympics. Oh, I have a better idea. Like skeleton, as opposed to luge, where you're like face first going at 80 miles an hour.
Well, some of those, it's like they just started on a dare.
Exactly.
It's like there's a bunch of drunk guys that were on the luge team, and it's like, hey, check this out. Look at Daryl, and he's just like he's going down face first, and then like it just spread on. But yeah, that's one. I would never do skeleton. I wouldn't even do luge. And luge is, granted you have to like lean and everything, but that's just
you could die doing that.
Oh yeah, easily.
Easy.
But yeah, I wouldn't do luge. I wouldn't do skeleton.
It'd be funny to watch like us attempt to do, even if we could skate, is speed skating.
Well, I can't skate, so any type of skating would be awful. Figure, speed.
Like, could I go like 10 meters in the time they go like 800?
I couldn't.
They're just flying.
I couldn't. It was like, I don't know what they did in Pennsylvania, but like Wisconsin for like middle school field trips and stuff at the end of the year, it'd be like, hey, we get to go to the roller rink and stuff like that and go roller skating. I was always the kid that was just playing like video games because I couldn't skate and I didn't want to just fall on my ass for the entire like 4 hours that we were gone. So I would not be able to do that because I can't ice skate either.
You know what I just found interesting, and maybe I'm wrong here. there aren't as many Winter Olympic sports as you would think. Like you're thinking, okay, there's 2 weeks plus. You got snow, you can do everything, whatever, ice, snow. Here's what's listed at ESPN.com. Now, there's variations of think of these sports, like you said, like luge is like doubles or bobsled, 2-man, 4-man. But here are the sports in the Winter Olympics. Okay, alpine skiing, no thanks. Biathlon, is that the shooting competition? With bobsled, cross country skiing without the shooting, curling. Everyone would thinks they could win that.
I'd even fall doing that though. Probably
figure skating. Give me a break. That's impossible. Freestyle skiing, so skiing with tricks. Ice hockey, obviously. Luge, Nordic combined. That I feel like is a lot of different elements. That might involve shooting as well. I don't know. Short track speed skating, skeleton, ski jumping. Now listen to this one, Brent. Ski mountaineering. What is ski mountaineering? Is that going up? And then the final two are snowboarding and speed skating. That's it. That's every sport in the Winter Olympics.
Okay, Nordic combined is when they compete in cross country skiing and ski jumping.
Oh wow!
What was the other one?
The other one, ski mountaineering, like the word mountain with EERING on the back. Ski mountaineering. I've never heard of that. Is that maneuvering down a mountain? Is that going up a mountain? Like what is that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's a skiing discipline that involves climbing mountains either on skis or carrying them, depending on the steepness of the ascent.
That sounds miserable.
It pretty much sounds like I said, my dad used to be like big into skiing, so he used to watch like all those Warren Miller videos and stuff like all the time. And it sounds like the thing when they used to, like, you could ride up in the helicopter and they'd take you up top. It almost sounds like, no, we're not going to, you don't get the helicopter ride. You're going to carry your skis, and that's going to be part of it.
It's like when you're a kid and you like take your sled and you get to the bottom and you carry your sled back to the top, and then you go to like the nth degree, because it's like Olympic mountains.
In a way, it's kind of like Christmas songs, which makes sense because you think there's tons of Christmas songs, but as I learned from being in radio, when you try to play like Christmas songs all day, there's really only about 20 to 25 Christmas songs. It's just they've all been covered so many times by so many different artists that it feels like there's like 500 Christmas songs, but there's only like 20.
That's interesting. I like that. Anyway, I do think it's, especially with the Winter Olympics, and maybe it's because we're in San Diego, but I just think in general, it's kind of hard to relate to some of these sports. In my entire life, I've never seen someone in person speed skate. I've never seen someone do Nordic ski. I've never seen half of these sports other than on television.
See, speed skating is I've sort of, the Olympic speed skating like center, I guess you would call it, is in Milwaukee, or it used to be in Milwaukee.
So you could like go in there?
No, but it's on the way to what Miller Park or American Family Field or whatever they call it these days. It used to be on the way because you drive by the interstate to go to County Stadium at the time or Miller Park, and you would drive by it because it would have these big signs. And God, there were like a married couple that were speed skaters, and they were from Wisconsin, and they trained at this place. So every time we go to a Brewer game, you would drive by and you'd see the speed skating center. And that would always make me think of that, because I'd be like, oh yeah, that's where that couple trained. I can't think of what their names are though.
But I have never even seen a bobsled track in my life. I know there's one in Salt Lake, obviously, because they've had the Olympics, or Lake Placid, but again, it's just so remote. All right, on the other side, we're going to get to the wrap. Plus, we have Super Bowl ratings and viewership numbers reporting at this very moment. Did we set a record for TV viewership or not in 2026? We'll have that for you on the other side. Plus, we're giving away Charlie Puth tickets here until 6 p.m. on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. The Tigers signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million deal today. Verlander, who will turn 43 on the 20th, spent his first 13 seasons with Detroit. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein was going to retire after 11 seasons. He was a 2015 second-round pick and was the longest-tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons of his NFL career with the Rams. Tonight, we've got Lakers basketball when they take on Wemby and the Spurs, at least what's left of them, because the Lakers will be without LeBron, without Luka, without Austin Reeves, and without Marcus Smart. Tip-off of that game will be at 7:15, and the tip will be around 7:30. If you have any questions about youth or high school sports, Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA delivers better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
All right, San Diego Sports 760, hour 3. This hour, your chance to win Charlie Puth tickets. This hour, you'll hear a conversation with John Canzano. Apparently, the Pac-12 football schedule will be released tomorrow. He's got some good reporting on that. You'll hear it coming up at 4:30. We do have NFL Super Bowl viewership numbers being reported within the last few minutes, and NBC Sports will fall short of the all-time Super Bowl record, which was established last year. NBC had 124.9 million viewers across NBC and its platforms, and there's a lot of them in there. So 124.9 million viewers on NBC and its platforms, down from 127.7. That was 2.8 million more people, however they quantify that. Again, to Brent's point, parties, gatherings, bars, restaurants, it's very hard. Whatever, the same metric being used each of the 2 years. This year is down 2.8 million viewers. Now, I would say this, that doesn't surprise me. This game was awful. So when you put it all together, the fact that you still have the second most viewers in the history of the Super Bowl is unbelievable, because if this game was like week 3 in the NFL on the NFL Network, I'm turning this thing off quick because it wasn't very entertaining.
For me, the biggest thing that's surprising me is, we talked all week about how the Super Bowl just had a lack of star power because there was no Mahomes, no Josh Allen, no, Peyton Manning, and there's just no like big name superstar on either team. So even without a Mahomes and without a big marketable star, there was only a 2.5 million viewer difference,
something like that.
I figured it would have been a lot bigger just because they didn't have. It's essentially telling me that the difference between a no-name Super Bowl with two teams with no superstars and a big marketable superstar, filled Super Bowl with Mahomes and, big brands like the Chiefs and the Eagles is only 2.5 million more.
It's a good point. I think it's a credit to the NFL then for getting that number. Well, listen to this. Did Bad Bunny surpass the Super Bowl viewership number or fail to reach the Super Bowl?
The game?
Yeah,
or
like
last year's halftime.
What had more viewers, Bad Bunny or the Super Bowl?
Probably Bad Bunny.
Yes, Bad Bunny.
Because probably people wanted to see what he was going to do.
Come in for the halftime show. He had 128.2 million viewers. However, the caveat is that's 5.3 million fewer than Kendrick Lamar. So over 5 million more came in for Kendrick Lamar. To your point, the game difference between last year and this year was only 2 or so million viewers. So Kendrick Lamar did command, more viewers than Bad Bunny, but both Kendrick Lamar and Bad Bunny exceeded the actual games themselves each of the last 2 years.
Well, I think the NFL and Bad Bunny himself, he did a good job of promoting the halftime thing. Because, we talked all last week about how the NFL has just been, not a peep from them about the Super Bowl or anything. But yet, it turned out that for the most part, he was trolling everybody with, well, is he going to, do the halftime performance in a dress and all these things that just got people to tune in to see what he was going to actually do, opposed to no one was like, oh, is Sam Darnold going to throw 3 touchdowns? It's like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, okay, listen to this. And again, I think a lot of this, whenever you talk about viewership, and this is a fair point, is like it has to be taken with more than a grain of salt. We're in a world now where streaming numbers are calculated differently and people watch games on phones, and we weren't doing that 10 years ago. So everything's different. There's other platforms. There's Spanish viewership options on like Telemundo. So I don't even know how they were quantifying it, 95 to 2005 to 15 to 25, but you get the point. It should be taken with a grain of salt. And the reason we say that is like, listen to these halftime numbers. This year, 128. I'll just give you the main number, 128. Last year, 133. Usher, headlining 2024, 129. Rihanna in 2023, 121. And then you go back to 2022, and the Dr. Dre show with Snoop had 103. So we've gone from 103 in 2022 up to 133 with Kendrick Lamar 3 years later. Or does that have to do with like streaming and how the numbers are reported? That seems kind of crazy to me that 30 million more people are coming through television to watch Kendrick Lamar than Dr. Dre, who, by the way, had Kendrick Lamar with him, who had, an appearance in that 2022 show.
I would almost wonder if, yes, I do think that the streaming makes a difference with that.
Yep.
But I also wonder if, Rihanna and Usher and like Bruno Mars and all those guys, they all dance and they all do. Well, you know what I mean? They all, Dre and Snoop aren't going to get up there and start, doing some in sync choreographed dance number. So that might be some of the reason for why it's a little lower, to where it's just like, oh, well, they're just going to get up there and, rap and see what they have for a set and everything, but it's not going to be. And yes, you can say the same thing for Kendrick Lamar, but I think lots of people wanted to see if he was gonna, because Drake kept saying, "Oh, I'm gonna sue you if you do that song on the Super Bowl." I think lots of people just wanted to see if he was gonna edit the song or change the song at all. And when he took his shots at Drake, that was my main motivation last year for watching it, because I can't stand Drake.
And that might have been the difference in having more viewers. Here's the part that I don't understand, and I don't know enough about how TV viewership is analyzed, because it's not like you could ever have. Like there's 342 million Americans, but you're never going to see someone say like 300 million Americans watch something, because each household has like, 2 to 4 people, or on average, whatever it is. So, but anyway, the point is, there's 125 million viewers, right, for this year's Super Bowl. I mean, even giving the benefit of the doubt, yeah, there's parties and, there's another 50 million people at bars or restaurants or at other people's homes. Let's just say there's even way more than 125 and give it 150. Throw 175. We're throwing millions on top. All right. We're giving benefits of doubt to this. That still means, even if you said another 50 million people are watching with others, that means there's 100 to 175 million Americans that are not consuming the Super Bowl. Do you think that's accurate? That out of 340 million people, do you think at the end of the day, 100 million or so are not even like throwing the thing on?
No, because I don't think it's accurate.
Neither do I.
Because, if you have a Super Bowl party and I go to your Super Bowl party, my household is going to be one of those that's included in the 100,000 that technically didn't watch the game.
Right.
And if you have 40 people over at your Super Bowl party, there's 40 people
households, yeah.
And you just do that
and times that by a million.
Yeah, across the whole country. So yeah, I would buy that. It's like I said earlier in the week, there's a difference between viewership and engagement. Mm-hmm. If it's just you, your wife, and Jones sitting on the couch watching the game, you guys are engaged, you're paying attention. If it's you and 50 people at your house, 7 of you are probably trying to pay attention, but you can't over everyone, talking over the game and everything else. You're not really engaged. It's just kind of on in the background. Like if if you go to a Chili's or something, they might have Spurs and Knicks on, but you're not actually watching the Spurs and the Knicks, but you're getting credit for watching the Spurs and the Knicks.
Right. No, you bring up a really good point. I mean, what we're talking about, the funny thing here with the viewership numbers for the Super Bowl and the semantics and the splicing it down and analyzing it, at the end of the day, NBC cannot care, because you can never have more eyeballs than a Super Bowl. So whatever it is what, like, you've appeased your sponsors, you've appeased your advertisers, you've promoted Peacock, you've promoted upcoming events like the Winter Olympics. There's nothing you can possibly do other than air the game. Is it like, if you air it, they will come? And there's tens and tens and tens of millions of people watching this. Who even cares? You're never going to do better than it. Oh, it's down 2 million from last year. Give me a break. They're probably just watching in someone else's house. Everyone's watching, everyone's consuming. There's no bigger event on television in America than the Super Bowl. And that's been proven once again.
And I think it worked out for NBC because they have a lot of stuff to promote.
They really do.
It's not like some years, CBS is like, when they would have the Super Bowl, their big thing is, oh, it's a premiere of Survivor 68. And it's just like
Yellowstone after this.
And it's just like, okay, but NBC, used it to promote all their stuff. They promoted the Olympics. They promoted Sunday Night NBA that's coming soon.
Shows, dramas, everything.
They promoted the next season of Ted.
Yeah.
They even hinted at some of their baseball coverage and stuff coming up. So they've used the platform to promote all upcoming things, opposed to just solely focusing on the Olympics and the Super Bowl and nothing else.
It's a good point. Now, next year, this game will be on ESPN, right? And ABC. But I think like the flagship is ESPN. Obviously, they'll see massive numbers, the biggest in the history of a cable network. But I read yesterday that there is someone at ESPN. This comes as no surprise. It's like there's someone at Macy's that their only job is the Macy's Day Parade. There's someone at ESPN, their sole job over the next 360-ish days is to concentrate on that broadcast and to lead the team that will ultimately direct, produce everything that goes into it, that broadcast. But that is kind of incredible that even after the game, they kind of like gave the baton to ESPN to say, hey, next year it's at SoFi. There was all the ESPN programming yesterday from Disney. Like they're already like starting the ramp up, man. And you know how ESPN can really promote, and like this thing is going to be obsessively promoted, and that's putting it mildly, over the next 360 something days. Now the Super Bowl on ESPN is like insanity that you're going to have that kind of viewership on ESPN. It's amazing. I don't think the Super Bowl has technically been on ESPN. I don't know if ABC's ever been the primary, and then ESPN's shown it.
They've had it before,
but it's
been a while.
And then has ESPN also shown it when ABC's had it? I'm not sure.
No, because I think that was pre-Disney merger.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we're gonna get our first in a long time, at the very least, Super Bowl and ESPN coming up next year. We'll get to the wrap on the other side. Plus, John Canzano on the Pac-12 football schedule release, expected as early as tomorrow. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John Canzano on the latest with the Pac-12 and how it'll impact San Diego State coming up in about 10 or 12 minutes. Get back to the Padres with spring training, I guess, underway. Pitchers and catchers reporting this week. Greg Stammen speaking with the media earlier today. Kevin Acee, our Padres Insider in Peoria on the Fletch Zone earlier. He'll join us this week on this show as well later in the week. So we'll hear from Kevin Acee, of course, our Padres Insider throughout 2026. But right now, Brent, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Would you give the Lakers a puncher's chance tonight against the Spurs with no LeBron, no Luka, no Austin Reeves, and no Marcus Smart? He doesn't really matter as much as the other three.
I don't want to give them a puncher's chance. Even though in the NBA, I feel like you can just have randos out there that like never play, but over 48 minutes, they could hit like 7 threes in a game and score like 28 points. I want to say no. So I'm going to say no. I'm not saying they lose by 40. I think that's unlikely to lose by 40 at home, but I just feel like they'll lose by 10 plus points. It'll be a game for like 2.5 quarters and they'll ultimately wilt.
You know what I just thought of?
What?
This is Bronny's chance to shine.
Is he like going to go for 80 tonight? I mean, seriously, someone is going to score.
He should get serious playing time tonight.
Someone for the Lakers is getting 32 field goal attempts. Okay, like somebody should
and they'll
the ball
make
32
10 of them.
If they make 20 of them, we could have a special night in Los Angeles. But no, the Lakers shouldn't win this game. What does that say about the league if you can win that game? I mean, seriously.
Well, what's it say about the Spurs?
Yeah, no, they should not win that game. Next question.
What did you think of the new SDFC kit?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier, maybe about an hour or so ago. I like it. It provides more color than what we saw in year one. You need to check it out online. You can find SDFC on social media or at their website, but it's their community kit, which also is being referred to, I guess, as their unity kit. And it's got, more, just more color to it, just more flair. It's more unique. I think it is kind of a unique look for SDFC. They didn't go the full City Connect route, to their credit. They didn't go crazy, but they also did provide, I think, more than what we saw last year with their home and road kits. So I like them. I give it a really good grade. Honestly, I like them. I think it's a big improvement over last year. Next question.
Are you surprised the Super Bowl didn't set a viewership record?
No, I'm surprised that it came as close as it did to setting a viewership record, considering how bad of a game it was. And the more I think about it, now we've sat on it for an extra 12 or 24 hours since yesterday. It was a terrible game. Like, the more I think about it, the worse the game gets. I don't even know what I'm going to remember. If Brent asked me in 18 months, hey, remember that Super Bowl 18 months ago? I'll be like, who played? I will have no idea. In fact,
you'll forget in 4 months.
Now, I was going to say next year when we get into the playoffs, it's going to take something for me to remember it was Seattle and New England. It will take something for me once we get into the season next year, especially if the other teams like pop up like Kansas City and Philadelphia. So the fact that it was second all time in viewership is actually, I think, a credit to the NFL considering that game. Next question.
Will Craig Stammen be will he be better with the media than Mike Schilt?
He's not gonna be worse. I mean, Mike Schilt got a lot of criticism for how he interacted with the media, and we cannot judge Craig Stammen off a day or an appearance.
What?
Like today, for example, although Jim would. Today, when Craig Stammen said that the Padres' organizational philosophy is to score as many runs as possible. Obviously, that's laughable and comical.
Craig fact.
Yeah, like everyone's organizational philosophy is to score as many runs as possible. But I'm not going to like vilify him for that one February 10th quote like it matters. I mean, they don't even play for 50. When do they play? March 27th. And today's February 10th. It's like 50 days. Maybe not that many, but it's a lot of days. 45 plus days until the Padres play. So let him ease into it. I didn't like Mike Schilt's interactions with the media in season. He was a little better like in spring training. He was a little more like jovial than he would be once you got into like the heat of the season. So my guess is Craig Stammen will be better. He's just, I don't know, probably better equipped to deal with it as someone that was recently a player. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be unbelievable with the media, but I think he'll probably be better than Mike Schilt was with the media.
I think we're going to swap the nicknames for some dad jokes. And right. I kind of feel like I can't see Stammen, or I can't see Craig Stammen just flipping out. I brought up yesterday, like that Colorado game when they blew the 8-run lead in the 9th, and Schulte should have known that's going to be the first question he gets. Doesn't even matter who asked it. If it was Kevin, Marty, it doesn't matter. That's going to be the first question you get. And then he just goes ballistic on them for asking a question that you've known for the last 30 minutes that you're going to get.
Right.
It's like if my parents tell me my curfew is 10 o'clock and I come rolling in at 12:30, and then I'm just shocked and amazed that they ask me where the hell I've been. And it's just like, you've known this is going to be the first thing you get asked for an hour. So you should be prepared with an answer, not just throw a fit like this is, just, I can't believe you're asking me that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, like, I want to be willing to give Craig Stammen in a lot of instances early a little bit of benefit of the doubt, a little bit of like, I don't think it's the right word, but like grace. There's no way opening day.
Slack.
Yeah, you have to cut them slack, because like opening day, if it doesn't go perfectly and they lose, and there's a in-game decision that doesn't go perfectly. I mean, yes, on one hand you say, well, I kind of told you so. It's a first-time manager that's like a former relief pitcher. But on the other hand, like, okay, it's a game. They could win the next. And there could be a lot of things that play out over the course of, the 6+ months of the season. And all of these managers have moments in time where they're second guessed. All of them, including, Dave Roberts, who's, was vilified when he was younger for some of his managerial decisions in postseasons. And now he's got, multiple rings. So, yeah. Again, will we be critical when it's appropriate? Of course we will be, but you also have to be, I think, somewhat understanding and reasonable of the situation he's being thrust into. And I don't think we're going to go absolutely ballistic on like day 2 if Craig Stammen isn't managing a perfect game.
No, you got to cut him slack for at least, a month or 2, maybe. Just, and I mean by cutting him slack in terms of, if he took out, Crony in the 6th inning for a pinch hitter, and then it comes back to bite him in the ass later in the game because of a lefty righty situation or something like that. I'm not going to jump all over it right away because he doesn't have any experience yet. So he has to get his feet wet, and he kind of has to learn by doing, opposed to just sitting on the bench and being scared to do things because he's afraid he's going to screw up.
Yeah. Again, we will give it time, but there's going to come a time where he's going to need to put his team in a position to be successful. And the manager does play a role in that, obviously, as well. All right, we're going to switch gears back to San Diego State heading to the Pac-12. What's the latest with the league heading towards the summer when San Diego State transitions to the Pac-12 conference? We're expecting to get a Pac-12 football schedule at some point tomorrow, per John Canzano at johncanzano.com. He joined us earlier. You'll hear our conversation coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Tigers signed starting pitcher Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million contract today. Verlander, who turns 43 on the 20th, spent his first 13 seasons as a Tiger. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein is going to retire after 11 seasons. He was a 2015 second-round pick and was the longest tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons of his NFL career with the team. The Lakers are getting set to take on Wemby and the Spurs tonight, but they'll be doing it without LeBron, without Luka, without Austin Reeves, and without Marcus Smart. You can hear the game right here on 760. Pregame coverage will begin at 7:15, and the tip will be at 7:30. For victims of drunk and drugged driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, back with you on San Diego Sports 760. Some really good reporting today from John Canzano, who joined us earlier. The Pac-12 is going to release its football schedule potentially as early as tomorrow, and it's going to have a unique twist to it, flex scheduling. Here's our conversation beginning with that from John Canzano.
Yeah, you bet. Look, this is something the Big Ten Conference looked at a year and a half ago, when they were talking about automatic bids to the college football playoff. Now, they backed away from it. But the idea being that week 13 of the Pac-12 football season, this coming season in 2026, week 13 will be a flex schedule week. Now, you're going to get an announcement. I believe the Pac-12 is going to roll this out tomorrow. There may be a little after dark element to the rollout, but the Pac-12 is going to roll out this schedule. They're going to say, hey, here's weeks 1 through 12. And by the way, week 13 is a little different. How they're going to do this is week 13 will not count in the regular season schedule standings. It'll count as a win or a loss, but it won't count towards the conference championship. The conference championship participants will be determined by week 12. Week 13 will be a one-off. And in week 13, you're going to get 4 teams announced tomorrow as home teams, 4 teams announced as road teams. And then the league will have, with a 6-day window before those games are kicked off in week 13, they'll have the ability to change the visiting teams and shuffle them around a little bit. And one theoretical advantage of that is, hey, if you have a team that is jockeying for position in the college football playoff, and you think getting a little different matchup, whether it be a better matchup or ensuring a win, is a strategic advantage to the Pac-12. The Pac-12 can do that. Another advantage would be, let's just say hypothetically, San Diego State and Utah State are playing in week 12. And, they play a game in week 12, and then wait a minute, they're scheduled to, they're going to be the conference championship matchup in, 2 weeks later. And by the way, week 13 gives you a chance to kind of shuffle things around. So you can avoid some redundancy by saying, hey, look, if these teams are going to play each other in week 13 and they're going to play each other in the championship game, let's change week 13. Let's have Fresno State come in and play San Diego State instead. So it's going to create some creative element. The TV partners, I'm told, love this because they like the idea of creating more attractive matchups, but it's going to be a real interesting week 13 in particular. But there's some other nuances in this schedule as well. We can talk about those.
All right. That's pretty fascinating. Yeah. Give us some additional nuances, because again, it's like the Pac-12 in today's landscape is entirely unique with the size of its league, right? I mean, an 8-team league is essentially unprecedented in an era where you have 18 team leagues. So what else is the Pac-12 thinking with their scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, look, I look around the Big Ten, the SEC this year, the ACC even, the Big 12. I have a hard time figuring out who's good.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't play each other, right? There's no crossover. And we're looking at an ACC championship game where, Miami should have been in that game, and they're nowhere near it because of the way they schedule. So the Pac-12, you're going to get the opposite end of the spectrum. These teams are going to see a lot of each other. They're going to all play each other. There's some matchups I'm circling. I want to see San Diego State and Boise State play.
Sure.
I think that's going to be a really big game. I was on Boise radio earlier today, and they're excited about playing the Aztecs. Like, they're going, hey, that's going to be a big annual game for us. They were looking back last year to Snapdragon this last season. I was there. I came out for that game because it was such a big game. It was rainy and everything, but it was, you're going to see a lot of that circling on the calendar, but these teams are all going to play each other. And then week 13 is going to happen. And 6 days before those kickoffs, you may be told, hey, the matchups are changing and here's what's going to happen. Some other things that are going on. Everyone's going to have one Friday night game during the season, or the option for a Friday night game. And I say option because it will be up to the TV partners whether or not that's a Friday night game or a Saturday game. I am told the only caveat there is that Texas State will not play a Friday night game. They will play a Thursday night game because of high school football in the state of Texas is so big, they're not going head to head with high school football in Texas. So they're going to, Texas State will get a home Thursday night game. Everybody else will play only one Friday night game. I asked, a source that, will this be a Pac-12 after dark? Will you lean into that branding? They said, why wouldn't we? They think they're going to go full throttle with sort of branding those games as after dark specials. You're going to see a lot of that. I don't think we're going to get 8 p.m. kickoffs. We won't get kickoff times tomorrow, but the kickoff times will be announced in May and June. But I think we're going to see some 7s, some 7:30s. But I think you're going to see some day games as well because the CW wants day games.
I'm curious to get your thoughts. John Canzano, JohnCanzano.com. And again, for our listeners, make sure to check out his reporting online. Some really great stuff for Aztec fans and Pac-12 football fans. Well, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the North Dakota State addition to the Mountain West and why now. It comes in February. They'll be in the league for 2026, seemingly maybe adding some security, a strength in numbers element to it. But why is North Dakota State joining the Mountain West now?
North Dakota State is looking around. They're having some problems. They can't get anybody to play them. None of the FBS schools want to play them. And so they've beat up on the FCS division. They've watched a number of their head coaches go on to join FBS schools. They held off Oregon State in this last hiring cycle by telling Tim Polasek, their coach, that they were going to try to get to the FBS level. Like, you don't have to go somewhere to get there. We'll get there. And so I think there's a little bit of that going on. Plus, there's a little bit of envy, right? They watched Appalachian State go FBS. They looked over and they saw JMU playing in a playoff game. They're like, hey, that used to be us. And so I think they're looking over going, if we're going to jump, if football is going to become, college football is going to become 60 to 80 teams competing in the top division in like 2032 and beyond, now's the time to duck under the rope and try to get into that group. And so they're going in. They're obviously spending like $20 million to get into the Mountain West. They're going to have to invest a minimum of $10 million a year in their football program. This isn't for everyone, but I think they've kind of looked around FCS and they've gone, all right, we won this thing. And in fact, in the last decade, 5 teams that we beat for national championships are now FBS schools, including Appalachian State, including JMU. And so I think they're looking over going, for their standpoint, it makes sense. For the Mountain West, it's very curious timing for me. And I'm looking at this and I'm always asking questions and I'm always going, okay, what is really going on? And I really do think for Gloria Nevarez in the Mountain West Conference, this is about defense. She is playing defense. She knows when you get down to like 8 schools and you lose an Air Force or a UNLV, you're in big trouble. So I think she's fortifying by adding Northern Illinois. She's fortifying by adding North Dakota State. I think the fact that it came right after the announcement of the media rights money is very curious to me. Does she know that UNLV and Air Force are not happy with the dollars? Does she suspect that like they're looking over at the Pac-12 going, hey, they're getting more money, they're getting more exposure? Maybe. But I do think it's a defensive move on behalf of the Mountain West because I think they know like having 10 football playing schools is better than having 8 for them because there is a flight risk, I think, that is ongoing with UNLV and Air Force. And I think that will be a storyline headed towards this summer, July 1st, another deadline, right, for the Mountain West. If UNLV and Air Force are going to bolt, keep an eye on July 1st as well.
Would you be surprised, John, if the Pac-12 remained at 8 football members for 2027? As in, how much of a priority will it be to get that 9th school to get to 8 conference games with 8 different opponents?
I would be shocked if they don't have at least a football only edition. Mm-hmm. And I think they are going to go shopping. I think they are looking for another member. I think they have, sort of laid up for right now. They're focused on getting the football schedule out, scheduling their conference championship game, the football championship game. That will also be part of the announcement tomorrow. I am told they're going to announce that it will be a home game for the highest seeded team. There will not be a neutral site game. So if San Diego State has the best record in the Pac-12, they will host that conference championship game. They're focused on the basketball championship tournaments, the men's and women's tournaments. I'm told are going to Vegas. They're negotiating with MGM right now, whether it's going to be MGM Garden Arena or it's going to be the Michelob Ultra Arena over at Mandalay Bay is to be determined. I think it's going to be one of those two sites. It will not be T-Mobile because T-Mobile is booked right now with the Big Ten women's tournament in 27 and the men's tournament in 28. I think they ideally want to be back in T-Mobile in 29, but I think the next 2 years could be MGM Garden Arena. It could be MGM Michelob Ultra Arena over at Mandalay Bay. I think, the basketball tournament's going to be there. But beyond this stuff, then comes a little bit of a rebrand. They're going to tweak the logo, I'm told. They're going to, finalize all the game times and the kickoffs. And then I think June and July will be about, hey, who do you add from a football-only perspective, if it is just a football move, or is UNLV back in play after they see some media rights numbers? Because the Pac-12 now has some dollars, and I am told that those distributions in the Pac-12 per school should be above $7 million per school. And if you're in the Mountain West and you're getting 2.8 million, plus they're subsidizing to get you to 3.5 million, maybe you have something to think about if you're UNLV.
Fascinating reporting. Again, you can see it all at johncanzano.com. You've been all over this story. Realignment never stops. And Pac-12, I know people in San Diego are excited to see the future of this league as it plays out in real time. So, John, appreciate you taking time. Have a good show today, and thanks for doing it.
You bet. Thanks, fellas.
All right, great stuff. Again on Pac-12 football and basketball and more. All right, on the other side, we're going to get back to what Craig Stammen had to say earlier today as the Padres are reporting to Peoria to kick off 2026 spring training. We're here until 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. We're going to give away Charlie Puth tickets in the next 10 minutes. This is for a show coming up at Viejas Arena on April 22nd. So be listening. We'll give those tickets away in the next 10 minutes. Now, we'll get back to what Craig Stammen had to say earlier today at Padres Spring Training in Peoria. The Padres do have a new hitting coach. All right. This is Steven Souza Jr. He did not have a standout major league career, but was a longtime player, right? Minor leaguer, major leaguer, and is now the new hitting coach for the Padres. The question becomes this: how much credit or blame are we going to give Steven Souza Jr. for the Padres' success or lack thereof offensively? It's been a revolving door of coaches. The Padres last year under Victor Rodriguez were 28th in home runs hit, 28th, and 22nd in slugging. It's like, is Steven Souza Jr. really going to be the elixir to the Padres' problems? As in, even if they're better, is that because of Steven Souza Jr. or is that because Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, others get closer to reaching their ceilings than they did last year?
Easy question. If they don't hit, he's going to get all of the blame, and if they do hit, he's going to get none of the credit.
That's exactly what he has signed up for. I do agree with that. I mean, this is the same team that last year struggled mightily to hit for power. Yeah, Luis Ariz is gone. Okay, well then in theory you could hit for more power, and like you've added Sung Moon Song and Miguel Andujar, but by and large, it's like this is who they were: Merrill, Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, Sheets. This is who they were, and this is who they now are. Now with Victor Rodriguez in 2024, the numbers are kind of flipped. Top half of baseball in a number of different offensive statistical categories. Last year, bottom half of baseball in a number of statistical categories. Most glaring was the lack of home runs. They had the third fewest home runs hit in baseball. Some of that is explainable by the ballpark. It's never been, the number one ballpark for hitting home runs, although there have been years where Petco Park has been, average, if not above average in terms of home runs hit in the ballpark. But man, it does feel like, you're asking a lot of Steven Souza Jr. I don't think that's fair. I really don't. If they do perform better, there's a level of this, and Craig Stammen talked about this today. Part of this sport is the cyclical nature of you can have a nice year. Jackson Merrill's first year, you can deal with some injuries in your second year, like Merrill did. And then you might just inherently bounce back. That has nothing to do with Victor Rodriguez or Steven Souza. Or also, as players age, Steven Souza could be the right hitting coach for Manny Machado, but to expect him to have the same numbers he had when he was 28 might be far-fetched when he's 5 years older than that. So, it's an interesting part of it. We give Ruben Niebla credit when the pitching staff pitches well. He doesn't really receive a lot of blame when there are blunders with the staff. We don't do that with the hitting coaches. I think Rodriguez got some credit in 2024, but immediately when things went south, he got a lot of the criticism for it. That doesn't happen with the pitching coach, with Ruben Niebla. But you're right. I mean, I think with the hitting coaches, at least in San Diego, that has played out over the last decade.
I think there's a difference too between Ruben and the hitting coach to where, Niebla is working with every pitcher. There's not a pitcher that's on that staff that he's not working with, some more than others, obviously, but there's not a single pitcher that's in that staff that he's not working with. The hitting coach, he's not going up and giving Manny, pointers during batting practice or anything like that. The non-Mannies on the team, like the younger players, yes, he's going to go and give them hitting advice and stuff like that, but he's not going around to the entire, an entire roster and giving them hitting pointers and stuff like that, like Niebla is doing with the entire pitching staff. Because, half the time Manny takes his own batting practice. He doesn't even come out with a team. So I kind of feel like that's going to be the difference to where some of the higher level guys, he's not necessarily going to have to do too much because, Manny got where he is by, he knows what he's doing for the most part, unless he goes into some big, slump, then I can see them maybe working on him, but I just don't see him working with Manny that much.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing with stars in sports anyways. Like, how did you get to be a star? Like, if the hitting coach is so crucial, then how could Machado year in and year out produce the same numbers with 9 different hitting coaches? I'm sure he's had 9 in his career. He's probably had 5 here. And,
He's had at least 5 here.
yeah, so it's like if you had 5 here and 3 else. I mean, he's had one in. He's had more than one in Baltimore. Obviously, he had one in Los Angeles. He's had 5 here. So, yeah, he's had a number. Yet he has remained a consistent threat. Even obviously an all-star performer, Hall of Fame caliber offensive weapon. And that's not because he's just happened to have the best 9 hitting coaches in baseball. If that was the case, then wouldn't Xander Bogaerts have hit his last few years in San Diego? So it's an interesting conversation. Now, Craig Stammen said earlier today, paraphrasing, that hitting coaches is a lot about building confidence within a lineup. And I do buy that. It's a little bit like in college basketball, the last thing you want to do with someone that's struggling to hit a shot from the field is to be critical of their shooting. Like, hey, why are you taking so many shots? Or don't shoot. I mean, you're just asking for trouble. You almost have to shoot your way out of a slum. And in baseball, there is no hiding, right? Like, they play 100-something games. You get 500, 600, 700 plus plate appearances. So, you kind of have to hit your way out of it. And I do think confidence is a big part of it. I mean, baseball is a mental game, right? I mean, there are physical traits that are necessary, obviously, that are developed over a countless number of years, but the mental portion of the game weighs heavily on you, specifically hitters, way more than pitchers. Yeah. Pitchers, when you think about the mental aspect, it's like, yes, every once in a while, a pitcher deals with like the yips, where like there's just a serious issue. But by and large, the mental grind of baseball is more position player than it would be pitcher, in my opinion. That's not fully fair, but I think by and large, that's the case. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's true, because if you're a starting pitcher and you have a bad outing, you have pretty much a whole week to kind of just decompress and look at what you did wrong and try to correct, the mistakes that you made, opposed to, if I get a golden sombrero tonight and strike out 4 times, I don't have a week to figure it out because I got to start again in less than 12 hours.
Right.
So I either have to just try and just erase it from my mind and not worry about it, or I have to just try and squeeze it in with no time and just adjust and worry about it every single day opposed to every 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating study, like the mentality of a hitter over the course of a season is fascinating. Now, does Steven Souza play a role in that success or failure? Yes, he does. He absolutely does. So hopefully he's, positioned himself to help. I mean, they certainly need the help. Again, I'm going to put it more on Machado's shoulders than Steven Souza's. I promise you that. But they could use the help. Those numbers must improve in 2026 for the Padres to reach their goals. All right. If you want 2 free tickets to see Charlie Puth, who did the national anthem at the Super Bowl, call right now. Caller 7, you're going. This is April 22nd at Viejas Arena in just over 2 months. We have 2 free tickets. Call 877-767-4760. Caller 7, you are going. We have 2 free tickets to see Charlie Puth on April 22nd at Viejas Arena. Pick up your phone right now and call if you want those tickets. 877-767-4760. Call right now. Caller 7, you are going. You'll hear from Craig Stammen on the other side. Day 1 at Padres Spring Training. We're here until 6 on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by eBay. In Major League Baseball news, the Tigers signed veteran starting pitcher Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $13 million contract. Verlander, who's going to turn 43 on the 20th of this month, spent his first 13 seasons with the Tigers. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein has retired after 11 seasons. He was a 2015 second-round pick and was the longest tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons with the team. We've got Lakers basketball tonight on 760 when the team takes on Wemby and the Spurs. The Lakers will be without LeBron, without Luka, and without Austin Reeves for tonight's game. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like that rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with. Shiny like that designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, final hour here on San Diego Sports 760. And again, with you until 6 p.m. We should mention, because I have not been, that San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Bonus Bucks giveaway every hour. 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. You can listen for the keyword that entered at sportssd.com. You've got another chance to win $1,000 coming up at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. It wasn't even 2 weeks ago. We had a national winner of that $1,000 prize right here on San Diego Sports 760 with Michelle. You could be the next winner. Enter that keyword when you hear it at 6 p.m. at sportssd.com. In fact, she won, I think, at 6 p.m. when she won that prize less than 2 weeks ago. All right, listen to this. We're going to hear from Craig Stammen coming up from earlier today at spring training. Okay, there's a list from MLB.com, Brent, of the top 10 relievers right now in baseball. Okay. So on one hand, it looks really good for the Padres. On another hand, there's a significant, I guess, snub at the top. If you're into rankings, which I kind of am sometimes, because the number one reliever in baseball is not Mason Miller at MLB Network right now. In terms of right now, they say Mason Miller is number 2. To whom? Aroldis Chapman, who was unbelievable last year. I know, he had a 1.1 ERA. He's 38. Like, I can't be convinced that Aroldis Chapman, right now, you're not taking Aroldis Chapman over Mason Miller, even for right now. But okay, so they give it to Chapman, not Miller. This is according to the Shredder, which is like, who is that guy that hosts that show? He's so annoying. Brian Kenny. Brian Kenny, he's so annoying.
The only Shredder I know is Ninja Turtles.
No, this is like, Brian Kenny's guys like the Shredder show. So right now, the top 10 relievers in baseball here. So the good news is that the Padres in the top 10 have 3 relievers in the sport in the top 10, right? We talked about, they don't have any prospects in the top 100. Who cares? They've got guys right now in the major leagues that are in the top 10 in the respective areas. Now they're going to have to live up to it. What does the list really mean? Nothing. It means something in February, though. So Mason Miller is the number 2 reliever in the sport right now. Adrian Morejon is the 8th best reliever in the sport right now. He was spectacular last year. The one that has an asterisk for me a little bit is Jason Adam. He's awesome, but he tore his quad. And I don't know his exact timing. Craig Stammen spoke on it today. I think it's still to be determined. He's not going to be available when the season begins, presumably. He had a significant injury. Good news, not arm. So I think he will be back to where he was. Give him some time once he comes back, but you're not dealing with the shoulder. I mean, the shoulder's a disaster. It changes the pitcher that you are. An elbow you can recover from, takes even more time. And then this quad thing is like, I don't know, like you don't even see it. It's such a rare interview that he suffered this past year. It was a big blow. It was. I thought it was a big blow for the Padres down the stretch. They had a couple of injuries down the stretch last year. Remember Laureano heading into the postseason was hurt. That was, man, just out of nowhere. And he had meant a lot to their push in the second half of the year post deadline. And then Jason Adam, now you weren't scoring runs with Jason Adam, but you were preserving leads with Jason Adam. And he was like the hallmark of your bullpen, one of the hallmarks of your bullpen. But I mean, it's kind of, listen, this list, Brent, is mind boggling. Here's why. So you got Jason Adam, Adrian Morejon, and Mason Miller. Additionally, on the list, you have former Padre reliever Josh Hader, 9th, and former Padre reliever Matt Strahm, 7th, and former Padre reliever Andres Munoz of the Mariners at 5th. That's insane. 6 of the top relievers in the sport have played for the Padres, and 3 of them are currently on the Padres. They can evaluate a bullpen. Is the overall point. And they have routinely had among the game's most dominant bullpens. I've loved the strategy. Like, it's a yin yang strategy. It used to be starting pitching goes 6, 7, 8 innings. It gives you a chance to win. Now it's like turn things over to your bullpen with small leads in the middle of games, and you can win games. The issue for the Padres the last 2 postseasons is you can't turn a game over to your bullpen when you don't score or when you're trailing. And unfortunately, against the Dodgers in 2024, their bullpen could not save them. And unfortunately, against the Cubs in 2025, once again, their bullpen could not save them. When Yu Darvish went like an inning in Game 3, their bullpen was good in that game, really good, but bullpen wasn't scoring runs, unfortunately, for the Padres. What was the score of Game 3? 3-1 in the end? Something like that. And they had opportunities. They did. They had some chances in that game. They really did, but didn't capitalize. But listen, if the strategy is let's build the most dominant bullpen in the sport, so we don't have to score 6 or 7 runs, because if we can just give them the ball with a 3-2 lead or give them the ball with a 2-1 lead or a 2-0 lead, you get the point. Like, go preserve those leads. I do like the strategy. I even like it in the postseason. The belief today in the postseason is you got to outslug. Only way to win a World Series, you got to hit home runs. Like, look at the recent World Series winners. They all hit more home runs than the opposition. Get it? Recent history would suggest that. I still think that the strategy the Padres are trying to deploy has value even in the postseason, even if we haven't seen it reap the rewards the last 2 years. And we'll see what happens this upcoming year in 2026. So what do you think of that? 3 of the top 10 relief pitchers in the sport are San Diego Padres. Not surprising?
No, not really.
No, because they've had a great bullpen.
I'd say we had like one of the best bullpens in all of baseball last year.
Yeah.
So this and if you kind of just look at last year as a whole, especially once they got Mason Miller, it was like, what was everyone's goal was, who cares who the start is, who's starting? We just got to get to 5 innings. You get us through 5 innings, just get us to the bullpen. We're good. It doesn't matter if we're only up by 1 or if we're up by 10, just get us to the bullpen and we'll be fine.
And now I will say Mike Schilt last year, and to his credit, was super aggressive with his bullpen. Just like, boom, deploy it when you 2 outs in the 5th inning. Randy Vasquez cruising. Sorry, bud. Right. And then
sometimes he was 2 though.
Maybe. But like, you're unleashing and it's June 1st and you're trying to win these games, which I kind of respect. That is Craig Stammen, as a former reliever, going to be willing to tax his bullpen as much as Mike Schilt? That is an interesting question. That is going to be fascinating, because here is a player that understands the intricacies of what these pitchers are being asked to do. Where Mike Schilt did, it's not like the Padres are running the relievers into the ground and everyone was hurt all the time. That was not the case. I mean, the Jason Adam injury was a freak injury, had absolutely nothing to do with usage, literally nothing to do with usage. But what I find interesting is, like, will a former reliever be as willing to use his bullpen the way Mike Schilt was? He was just freely willing, essentially all season long, and typically to the benefit, I would say, of the Padres. That's going to be an interesting part of this. Like, what kind of innate feel does Craig Stammen have? Is it special because he's been there before and he's come out of those bullpens, or does he not have as good of a feel for it once he moves chairs and all of a sudden becomes a manager as opposed to a reliever?
I don't know. Maybe just the fact that he, was a bullpen pitcher is not necessarily that he's going to use them less, but maybe he'll use them more, opposed to just because he was a bullpen guy, opposed to just trying to do the, our starter, he has to go 5 because that's just the way it is. He has to go 5. It doesn't matter if he's struggling or what his pitch count is. He has to get to 5 because that's just the way it is. The starting pitcher has to go at least 5. Maybe he's going to have a quicker leash with some of the starters to where, we're deep enough in the bullpen that if a dude's not necessarily struggling, but you can tell that he just doesn't have it that day, maybe they'll pull him in the 3rd or the 4th inning and go to the bullpen early, because he might have more faith in the bullpen because he was the bullpen. I
mean, their bullpen has unbelievable potential once again. I mean, we're talking about the top of their bullpen, or the back end of their bullpen. Like, this should be not just a top end, really electric bullpen, but they should have depth. which will allow them at times to, if necessary, use them for longer stints. Now, of course, you never want to do that over 162. You don't want to be so heavily reliant on your bullpen. Ultimately, it feels like that can catch up to you. But it's like, what is your strength? What is your elixir to some of these other teams once you get in these positions? And I think for the Padres, the answer is pretty simple. Yeah, they have a good rotation. I think if King and Pivetta and Musgrove are pitching to their capabilities, they have a good rotation. It's not the best in baseball, though. They have a good lineup, right? But I just gave you the numbers. It wasn't that good last year. Can it be good? It can. Can it be great? That to me is far-fetched. Where they're great is in the back of their bullpen and the depth with their bullpen. That is where they are truly great. And if it is the best bullpen in baseball, how can you capitalize on it? And how far can that unit alone take you? And I think it's taken them relatively far. I mean, the bullpen has been a reason why the Padres have been in the postseason the last 2 years. It really has. With a bad bullpen, the Padres aren't sniffing the postseason last year with a bad bullpen. But they had a really, really, really good bullpen. They held a ton of leads. So I'm all for leaning into it. It's like, you look at what the Dodgers are doing with this ridiculous lineup that they've added Kyle Tucker to, and the embarrassment of riches in terms of international signings and free agent signings, right? It's like, well, what combats really good hitting? And of course, it's really good pitching. I mean, that's a tale as old as time. Doesn't mean it's easy. Like, oh, well, let's just score the first run against the Dodgers and hold 1-0 leads. It doesn't work like that. We understand it. It doesn't always work like that. But do you got a shot to shorten a game? Yeah, you really do. And can you combat really good lineups with an outstanding bullpen? Yes, absolutely you can. And that includes a team like the LA Dodgers. And I'm not telling you it's easy, but I mean, the Dodgers in their World Series paths the last 2 years, it hasn't been easy for them either. They needed to overcome some situations where they were underdogs, whether it was against Toronto last year in the World Series or against the Padres 2 years ago in the NLDS. So I do strategically like the idea of leaning as hard into your bullpen as you possibly can. And they've done it for the last 2 years. I think they'll do it again in 2026. Let's hear from Craig Stammen on the other side. We'll hear from Craig Stammen on the other side. We've got Brent's back page still ahead as well. We're here until 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760, and we're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 congratulates our $5,000 winners. iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. There's still time for you to nominate a public school teacher making a difference. And maybe they'll be one of our next winners of $5,000 to make over their classroom. You can help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. I want to hear from Craig Stammen. This was earlier today in talking about the Padres roster heading into spring training.
The roster that you have, there were some moves during the offseason. There could still be some. What do you make of this group of players and whether you expect moves coming in the next month or so?
Yeah, we got a great group of players. Some, top to bottom, we've got a pretty good roster that we feel like can compete for, any number of goals throughout the season. Is it the final roster? We know AJ. AJ's always got something up his sleeve. We've seen in the years past. We've signed Dylan Cease the day before we left for Korea. We signed Nick Pivetta last year, middle of February. So don't put anything past him. I know he's continually working and trying to fill out our roster and make it as best we can at the start of opening day.
Now, according to Kevin Acee, who was on with Ben Fletcher and Sammy Long earlier today, it is true that the Padres roster is likely unfinished and will include the addition of a veteran starting pitcher, but it is unlikely to be Zac Gallen, the former Diamondbacks starter, who's on the market right now as a free agent. He's represented by Scott Boras. The lead of Kevin's article in the UT today is the Padres will almost certainly continue their streak of acquiring a starting pitcher during spring training. And he goes on to write that Zac Gallen, in all likelihood, I'm now paraphrasing, will not be that pitcher. So that's where we are. Because earlier today, what's interesting is I thought I was going to lead the show today with what Bob Nightingale said is, hey, the following teams have interest in Zac Gallen and the Padres are on the list. But after that report was the local reporting from our insider in Kevin Acee that says that that's misguided. And Zac Gallen is unlikely, not guaranteed, I guess, but unlikely to be the addition for the Padres. And then you ask yourself, well, why? The reasons are obvious. I touched on this, I think, yesterday. It was always unlikely for them to sign Zac Gallen. I said this yesterday because he's going to get a really high salary. You're getting one of two things: a really high one-year salary, which is not the way the Padres do business, or you're getting a very long deal, lower AAV, lower dollars per year, but a long deal. And they don't want to do that. They did the Darvish deal that made no sense. That they're not giving out 5+ year deals to a 30-year-old pitcher in Zac Gallen. So I think they're going to like the next rung. Again, it's like you go to the supermarket and you're like, I got $100 and you want something, but you're like, well, that's 10. I'd rather spend 5, or that's 4 and I'd rather spend 2 or whatever. So I think you're dropping down to a lesser degree. And you're not going to be adding a Zac Gallen necessarily. There's other pitchers out there. We've talked about Nick Martinez. We've talked about Lucas Giolito. Some pitchers are coming off the board. Obviously, Justin Verlander's off the board now. But there's other options out there. But yeah, Kevin, who was on, again, the station earlier today saying that it's unlikely to be Zac Gallen. And again, the Padres have the payroll commitments they've already tied themselves into. They've got the Yu Darvish situation that's playing out where his contract hasn't been voided. Maybe it will be. How much savings is that going to give San Diego? But here's the other thing too. Gallen has a qualifying offer attached to him, which means the Padres would also lose some draft picks if they sign him. So another thing to consider as well if you're AJ Preller and the Padres. I just don't see, Brent, the team that's about to be sold signing some ridiculously high one-year deal for Zac Gallen.
No, I can't really see him doing anything too crazy that could impact the selling of the team. So yeah, I can't see them doing that. And honestly, it's like you said, they don't really have the money to do anything too crazy. To use your grocery store analogy, if I go into Vaughn's with $50, it doesn't matter if they're having a sale on lobster for $80.
Yeah.
I don't have $80.
Exactly.
It's nice if, Jim or whoever's next to me, they can afford to get the lobster for $80. That's nice. But me personally, as the Padres, I can't afford that. So I don't really care if the lobster's on sale because I can't even afford it on sale.
That's exactly right. And by the way, I mentioned Nick Martinez. He signed 2 hours ago at the Kansas City Royals. So like again, you're getting late in the process. Like
There's
there's only
sign with the Pirates.
you're gonna get to a point where there aren't a lot of options, and you're gonna be asking Ruben Niebla to do high quality work. Is what you're gonna. That's where you're gonna get to that point. You're gonna say, hey, it's more than a flyer deal, but it's not some huge dollar figure total, and you're just kind of hoping a little bit that your $4, $5, $6, $7 million signing turns into a pitcher like Nick Pivetta in 2025. I mean, that's very wishful, obviously. I don't think anyone thought heading into 2025 Nick Pivetta would be Nick Pivetta. And are you going to go find another Nick Pivetta after all of these pitchers are coming off the board? Again, I think it's probably wishful.
Well, yeah, if it was that easy just to find all these good players for, small contracts and not have to pay a lot for them, the Dodgers wouldn't have to defer 80% of their salaries to the future. They just do it now. But
by the way, the Nick Martinez deal, like this is what I don't know if they're losing out on Nick Martinez, but if Nick Martinez is signing a 1-year deal for $13 million, like you should be in on that, San Diego. Like that. We're talking about the Darvish savings that might be coming. He's owed 45 over 3 years. That's 15 a year, roughly. Like this is the type of player. And again, the Darvish thing isn't resolved, so maybe that's playing a role. But this is the type of move that you should be considering. Again, not 25 a year like King, not 35 a year for a Boris client potentially, but like 10 to 15 a year. It's hard to go much less than that. Oftentimes, when you go less than that, it's like you're converting a reliever to a starter. So that pitcher isn't getting the 10 or 15 million because they haven't yet proven it that they can start. But $13 million for a 1-year deal for Nick Martinez to me seems almost like a value play if you're Tampa Bay. And I would have thought that the Padres would be potentially interested at a dollar amount like that. And the other part I want to say earlier, it's like there was some reporting I saw earlier in the week. It's like, well, the Padres before this player signed were in on him. And the Padres before this player signed were in on him. But I'm like, finishing second doesn't matter. That there's no silver medal here. This isn't the Winter Games where you get credit for finishing in second and third place. Great. It sounds like they're motivated to make a move, but they're clearly missing out on some of their targets. If they're motivated to make moves, finishing in second or third place, and now you're getting to a point where it's like, there's only going to be so many players that are going to make a true, real impact on your team in 2026.
Yeah, they're at the point now to where, what's left in the field isn't that great to begin with. And it's getting even less great by the day.
By the day. That's exactly right. By the day. All right. We'll continue this conversation coming up on the other side as the Padres look to finish out their roster with pitchers and catchers reporting this week to Peoria. Plus, we're going to hear from AJ Preller, presumably coming up this week in Arizona. Kevin Acee is going to join us this week as well, right here on this show. We're here until 6 p.m. Brent's back page coming up. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. The Tigers signed veteran starting pitcher Justin Verlander to a 1-year contract worth $13 million today. Verlander, who's going to turn 43 on the 20th of this month, spent his first 13 seasons with Detroit. In NFL news, Rams offensive lineman Rob Havenstein is going to retire after 11 seasons in the NFL. Havenstein was a 2015 second-round pick and was the longest tenured Rams player, spending all 11 seasons of his career with the team. Tonight, the Lakers are going to take on Wemby and the Spurs, but they will be without LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, and Marcus Smart. You can hear the game right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame coverage will begin at 7:15, and the tip will be at 7:30. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you troubleshoot the likely cause of your pesky check engine light for free and help you save time and money down the road. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
All right, Brent's back page is coming up. So is the Brian Dutcher show on Thursday at 6 p.m. I'll sit down with the head coach of the Aztecs for 1 hour. We'll get ready for the big game they have coming up Saturday at home against the Nevada Wolfpack. It's the Brian Dutcher show. You can hear Thursdays at 6 on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. I mentioned the fact that we haven't yet heard from AJ Preller. Not that we were expected to today. I don't know if I'm assuming or presuming. We'll hear from him soon. I don't know if it's tomorrow or whatever it is. It's going to be, is it when position players report? Is it when pitchers report? It's coming soon. It's sooner rather than later. And guess what's going to be on the topic of questions for AJ Preller? Any update, AJ, on your future and your contract status? Because that is going nowhere. That question is going nowhere quickly. And the longer this plays out, the more that ramps up. And there's so much attention, in my opinion, on that very topic, AJ Preller and his future. Yes, ownership will play a large role in the future of the Padres, their successes and their failures. But you could argue just as important as that is who is the GM? Who is in charge of baseball operations? Who is the one setting the course for the San Diego Padres organization on field? That is AJ Preller. And he has not been without faults. Okay, to be clear, he has not been without faults. But you're in an era where he's put you in position to be in position, to use my college basketball point. He has. Goes back to Moneyball, which I've read and seen. It's like you can lead a horse to water. It's as simple as that. That is the GM's job. I so firmly believe in that. That it's not AJ Preller that didn't collect a run scored in the last 24 innings against the Dodgers. It's not AJ Preller that couldn't hit the side of a barn in Game 3 against the Chicago Cubs. He had put together a team that was capable of winning that Dodgers series. They were. I mean, they led a best of 5 series 2-1 if it was a best of 3 series. What on earth is that? If it was a best of 3 series, I mean, they're moving on, but it wasn't. So, like, he's done his job by and large the last couple of years. Again, not perfectly. I'm not telling you he's done it perfectly, but you're going to do better on the other side. You're going to leave that up to chance. Hey, let's open it up, guys. Let's open it up to the next candidate and see if we can do better. Like in a risk reward scenario, that's way too risky for me. If I'm the San Diego Padres, whether it's this ownership group or the next ownership group. So, I'm sitting down in a room, if I'm John Seidler, until it's done. If I have said publicly I want him here, I get him in a room in the Peoria Sports Complex and say, we're not leaving until it's done. And I don't understand how this could possibly still be ongoing. It's remarkably frustrating to think that it was inevitable October 2nd. And it's now February 10th, and that inevitability has not played out. How is that possible in professional sports? And it should raise so many red flags that it's played out like this until it's done.
Do you think if there wasn't a looming lockout that it would be done already?
I don't think it's as much tied to the lockout as I think it's tied to the ownership situation. That's my guess. You're right. The lockout opens up some unanswerable questions about next year. but the ownership does the same. And there's so many directions there. Like, is it going to be someone coming over from like a Premier League ownership group? Is it going to be a consortium? Is it going to be someone with San Diego ties or not? Like, I just feel like there's a lot of different factors at play in there. And I get it. If I'm Preller, I probably want some like outs in the deck. Like, is this where I want to be tied down to without knowing the future of the organization? That's a completely fair and legitimate question. And I don't know how truthful and honest he's been. You know, he was pretty honest the other day, and we've played it now a couple of times. He was like, you know, I've been busy, but I also want a fair deal. That's basically what he said. I've been busy, but I also want a fair deal. The organization has said multiple times publicly they're working on an extension. Therefore, they want him here. So the organization wants him. Preller is saying, I've been busy, and it hasn't been good enough as of yet. So if I'm the organization, if there's a path to get this done, what do I need to do? This is so simple to me. I up the years or I up the dollars, or I up the organizational ladder to run more towards him. Like, I give him more power, sway, say, whatever it is within my organization. I mean, there's only so many things you can do. You know, you can't give him a lifetime deal. You can't give him the richest deal in baseball history. You know, you can't put him, you know, on top of the ownership structure like he owns the team. Now, you know, Eric Grupner, I want to say, has a very small equity share on the Padres. Are you giving that to a general manager? Probably not historically, but it's like, if you really want him here, then you need to find a way to keep him here. It's just as simplistic as that for me.
I almost wonder, now that you brought it up, that what if he does want to go up another step in the power scale in the organization?
Yep.
And they're hesitant to do that because they don't know who's going to be at the tippy top of the organization, to where, you know, maybe a potential, you know, buyer is going to be like, dude, I don't want my GM to be the, you know, third in control of, you know, the team in the organization. That's just too much power for a GM to have in baseball. And we don't want that, to where they think that it might dampen the sale just because it might not scare away, you know, prospective new owners, but just it might not be as appealing, because then they're going to have to be like, oh, you know, I'm buying this club. I want to be in charge. I want to make the decisions. And if I buy this club now, this guy, he's already in a position of power to where he's making decisions. I don't want him making decisions.
Right. And he may be tied up to a long-term deal, and you can't get out from underneath it easily. Yes. And also on the Preller side, do you want to be tied to an ownership group long-term that you know nothing about? So if you now sign your name on the dotted line, and then you end up in an organization that isn't what you expected it to be for whatever reason, then all of a sudden you can't get out. As opposed to just play this out. If you're Preller and you never put your name in ink and you just let this thing play out, well, you know what you have is you have options. Now, you know, can you still come back at the end of this year if you become like a GM free agent? Depending on how you do this year, I guess. Are you going to have better options than the Padres? Well, that's dependent on how they perform. I mean, if the Padres fell flat on their face this year, like, that becomes a problem for AJ Preller in his future if you don't sign this deal. So, like, you're opening yourself up if you're Preller, but I still go back to who has more leverage in the equation. Is it the Padres or is it Preller? I think as we sit here today, it's still AJ Preller.
But on the flip side of that, though, if they come out like gangbusters and are just on fire out the gate, it's going to be more leverage for him to be like, hey, look at the team I've put together. We're on fire, opposed to if they come out and, you know, start 10-30 or something like that, just disastrous, where it's like, yeah, there's no way you're getting an extension now with the way they're playing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is one of those things that it's just shocking to me that there isn't some type of finality with the statement. As in, when he speaks, be like, deal's done. And then the organization releases the terms, or Kevin Acee reports on 3 years. They gave him through 2029, whatever. Okay, great. Or the two sides say, you know what? Now that the season is here, it's tabled, and we will discuss it October 1st of 2026. But or between now and opening day, there'll be another discussion, but it's tabled. But to leave it open-ended and just out there in the ether, it's almost like a cloud that's hanging over. And they already have the ownership cloud. How many clouds do you want hanging over you heading into the year?
I don't think they're going to want to try to table it and say, well, it's done just because, just because they say it's tabled doesn't mean the media is gonna. Just because
Right.
they go, oh yeah, we're not gonna worry about that until October 31st when the season's officially over. That's not gonna stop Kevin and Dennis and Marty and all them from asking,
Sure.
3 weeks from now, hey, what's up with that AJ extension?
Yeah.
And, they're still going to ask, even if they flat out tell us, look, we're not even going to dedicate 10 seconds of this during the season. This is an off-season thing. The media is still going to ask about it, whether they want us to or not.
I mean, I'm not kidding when there was reporting that it was imminent in October and that it was a format. Like these words have been used: imminent, formality, close, want to, like all these things that lead you down the path of like, this is hook, line, sinker, done. And in all of professional sports, this is rare. I'm telling you right now, if this is happening at the NFL or NBA level where the sports are so national, this is a very significant story. Like if the Packers and the president of football operations, like it's just like hanging out there, that's going to be a big NFL story. Or if Rob Pelinka isn't under contract, that's a big NBA story. And this is a big local story. This is a big story in baseball. Again, is it getting national attention? Of course it's not. But locally, this is something to keep an eye on heading into spring training. All right, we will get to Brent's back page. I've got something for the back page as well, Brent. Sports related.
Good, because I only had 2 today.
Really unique sports story developing this hour right now that I'll share with you on the other side. Brent's got his back page coming up as well. We're here until 6 p.m. Don't go anywhere. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, final time on San Diego Sports 760. I'll be watching some college hoops tonight, maybe some Olympics. We've been watching curling for whatever reason. I'm kind of into it though.
Because I'm too lazy to change the channel. And they've been jumping around, so I keep hoping that they're going to jump again.
What is this? Italy against Green Bay? Great Britain against Italy in this thrilling curling match playing out at this hour in Milan.
I forgot Jim's not here. I was about to say, where's Great Britain, Jim?
Dude, that's so true. All right, let's get to this.
John, in terms of obscure sporting events, where would sumo wrestling be on your bucket list for things to see?
It's not on my bucket list. Is that a summer Olympic sport? Sumo?
I don't know.
I don't know if it is either. I could see it because we were saying how
I'd see it being more of a summer Olympic than
it's not winter. Sumo wrestling an Olympic sport?
I don't think it is. Maybe it is.
Is sumo? There's already two other forms of wrestling. I don't think so. No, there's two other forms of wrestling.
Well, sumo wrestling is coming to San Diego.
Is it?
Yes, it's coming to the Wyland Center at Del Mar Fairgrounds. Sumo and Sushi is coming for the first time ever. It's going to be February 20th through the 22nd, and then February 27th and through March 1st. Like I said, at Wyland Center at Del Mar Fairgrounds, you can learn about the history and culture of sumo, watch over 12 live exhibition matches, ask the wrestlers questions, and you get to enjoy sushi while doing it.
Well, I'm a big sushi guy. I mean, I don't think I'm a big sumo wrestling guy. Now, would it be interesting in person? Potentially.
I think it'd be something. I think it'd be something interesting to check out. Especially you get like a little meet and greet to where you get to like ask sumo wrestlers questions and stuff like that.
Can we have one on maybe in studio? Join us before the
maybe should we reach
match?
Out? Maybe have him in.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try and get him to sumo wrestle Fletch or something.
Yeah, not me.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I would lose.
Obviously.
I would definitely lose.
You don't think you'd make weight for sumo wrestling?
No, I don't think you have to though with sumo. I think you can be any weight. That's the problem. Because then don't you want to be a lot of weight? What's the rules on weight for sumo wrestling? We're both looking it up, right? Or maybe are there weight classes? Looks like there's weight
That's
classes.
what I'm looking up.
Yeah, there have to be.
No, if you're a Grand Sumo or Ozumo, they do not use weight classes.
That's insane. It's insane. Interesting. All right. So go head out there in Del Mar later this month.
And then Wendy's is going to be doing $1 Dave's single burgers in honor of Singles Awareness Day, which I didn't even know was a thing. It is a unofficial holiday that is going to land the day after Valentine's Day. So it sounds like it's something that some
that's funny.
bitter single came up with.
Yeah, Singles Day.
Yeah. So you can just go into customers can get a $1 Dave single with go away people news. I didn't need that. Thank you. Customers can get a $1 Dave single with a purchase of with any purchase on the unofficial holiday on February 15th. Starbucks and Smoothie King and some other chains, I guess, are doing some other similar things this weekend with Valentine's Day. But yeah, Wendy's celebrating Single Awareness Day is, like I said, doing $1 Dave's single cheeseburgers in celebration. So
okay, that's that's unique that Singles Day follows Valentine's Day.
I've never heard. I've been single for a long time.
I've never heard of that one.
Never heard of that one. No.
All right, here's the one that I've been saving since I saw the story, which is only 10 minutes ago. And this is actually pretty cool, I would say, in like tying in like cultural events with sports. CBS Sports reporting that Villanova and Notre Dame's men's and women's basketball teams will open next year's college basketball season in Rome. Remember, the current Pope is a Villanova alum. So the report is that Villanova and Notre Dame will play a men's basketball game and a women's basketball game, a doubleheader, somewhere in Rome. It's not yet known what role the Pope may play. Like, will he attend? Will he greet the teams. You would think if you're taking these teams to Rome and the Pope is an alum of one of these schools that it would be attached in some way to that. So the college basketball season, they've actually been granted a waiver to start one day early next year for games in Rome between Villanova and Notre Dame. What do you think of that? It's not a game on an aircraft carrier.
No. The thing with that is when they do like football games, you know, like when the Irish will go to Ireland and when they played Georgia Tech for some weird reason over there, and that kind of makes sense. And it's kind of cool because, you know, they're outside in a stadium and everything else. So you can kind of tell that they're not at South Bend or anything. Basketball, it's kind of, if they don't tell us, we would never know. You know, like you said, the aircraft carrier game, it's obvious because you can see that they're playing on an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I don't know. It's how are we going to tell that they're in, other than graphics on the court, they're going to be in a building. It's not, nothing's going to like stick out unless they're going to have like leprechauns all over.
Well, you bring up a good point. I wouldn't think that Rome would have these massive arenas like we have in the U.S. Maybe there is. Maybe
they're not playing in the Coliseum or something.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But because of the time of day, it sounds like in the reporting that Fox could air a game before the NFL. So it's a Sunday, and let's say the NFL starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, right? So at 8 a.m. Pacific, which in Rome is, you know, I don't know, 8 hours later, I'm making it up, whatever. Sometime in the afternoon in Rome, they'd be playing a game at, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and Villanova, Notre Dame kicking off the college basketball season into a weekend of NFL action on Fox. I'm intrigued by it. I like it. You know me, I like an event. I do like overseas college games, though there's some weird ones. I forget what, Brent, there's like the first ever college football game in South America is coming this year. It's like Virginia, NC State, and like Brazil. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. I don't know if we need Virginia and NC State anywhere, let alone in Sao Paulo. But Villanova and Notre Dame, when the Pope is a Villanova alum and you're kicking off the college basketball season, again, are those the best programs today in college hoops? No, but Villanova's got this unbelievable history. So yeah, I'm on board.
Now, is the Pope going to be in attendance?
Well, that's not to be confirmed yet because the Pope's schedule, I doubt they lock anything in like that so far in advance. I bet you'll learn more about the Pope's role in this event in the days or weeks leading up.
Because that to me, that'll make a big difference. If they're going over there and they're making a big deal about the Pope and Rome, and then he's not even there, then who cares? But if they're going to make a big deal out of it, and then he's there and he does his customary wave from the press box or whatever, and then he's got, then I think that's different. I think that'd be kind of.
Well, remember there were reports that like the Pope will like text the text like people attached to the team, like
White
good
Sox stuff. Yeah, White Sox stuff too, because he's a big White Sox fan.
White Sox. So it's an interesting story. All right, good stuff. We're gonna do it again tomorrow, beginning at 2 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. Another day, getting you ready for Padres spring training. I don't know if Preller speaks tomorrow or not. I think he may. I'm making that up though. It's either when pitchers and catchers report or when I think it's when position players are there. I think it's when the whole group is there. We're not more than a few days away. There will be media with players or executives or coaches tomorrow, though. I do know that. And Kevin Acee is going to join us at some point this week as well, maybe as early as tomorrow. If you missed anything today, you can go to sportssd.com or the iHeartRadio app or iTunes or TuneIn Radio or Spotify as well. For Sammy, who was here earlier, and Brent, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760.